Hi, my name's Rachel, and today's the day we're going to talk about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is a book that has been so hyped on social media and has become incredibly popular in a way that readers did not anticipate. I think the publisher did anticipate it because I think personally that they employed some interesting tactics to ensure its success, but I'll talk about that in a different video. The premise of this sounded fun. Girl who wasn't supposed to go to dragon riding school goes and she has some struggles, and there's a guy who is supposed to not like her. He's supposed to be the most powerful wing leader. I thought, based on some clues that I usually use to predict what my star rating will be, that this would probably be a 3 for me, similar to what ACOTAR was. It was a 1.5 for me. 1.5. I do not see this book the way that others are seeing it. What I am seeing, though, are things that are far away. I can see all the way into the woods outside my window because I got glasses. And that brings me to today's sponsor, which is GlassesUSA.com. I have worked with them before. I highly recommend them. If you didn't already know, GlassesUSA.com is one of the biggest online eyewear retailers in the United States. GlassesUSA.com makes getting your eyewear easier by cutting out the middleman. They offer over 10,000 prescription glasses and sunglasses, including their in-house brands like Muse and Amelia E. Obviously, I am a fan of the Amelia E brand, but they also have designer brands like Ray-Ban and Oakley, Gucci, and many more at up to 70% off of retail prices. These glasses are so cute. I wanted something sort of like 1950s librarian style, and that is exactly what I got. But they aren't just cute, they're actually really helping me with work because GlassesUSA.com also offers a collection of advanced blue light blocking lenses. Blue light glasses are ideal for protecting your eyes whether you're at home or at work or outside. Using blue light glasses during screen time helps cut down on eye strain, decreases headaches, improves your sleep, and increases productivity, which is great for me because I do work at home on the computer. And I personally really appreciate the blue light blocking because as a person who has chronic migraines, I'm always trying to avoid triggering one. Speaking of trying to avoid migraines, I also grabbed sunglasses and I am obsessed with them. The full 1950s librarian look is complete. I really need sunglasses because I am in Florida and the sun is rough in the summer. We are struggling in the heat over here, so thankfully I have both of these options to wear. I picked out two very different options for sunglasses, and honestly I'm really happy with both of them. I do need to get a second pair of these though because my husband fell in love with them and now he keeps borrowing them. Another thing that we love about GlassesUSA.com is that I think we all know that online shopping can be fun, but eyeglass shopping, any sort of eyewear shopping online, can be difficult, especially if you're like me and you're very picky about sunglasses, and especially because there's so many options. But shopping for any glasses at GlassesUSA.com is very simple, as they offer excellent tools to help you find a pair that's just right for you. In particular, the AR virtual try-on is really helpful for me. I used it to find all of my frames, and I'm so happy with what I picked out. As soon as I saw these on my face, I knew that they were the one. And shopping at GlassesUSA.com is a risk-free shopping experience with free shipping and returns and a money-back guarantee within 14 days. Click the link in the description box down below to snag yourself a fantastic pair of glasses today. And thank you so much to GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring today's video. Before I start, I want to make something so abundantly clear to you so that we don't have the same cycle of comments that we normally do here. First and foremost, reviews are for readers. That's actually on my shirt. Reviews are for readers. This video is not for the author of the book. This video is for my audience to help y'all determine if you would like to read this book or not, and it's for people who read the book and want to have a discussion with me about it. It's also for authors who sometimes watch my channel in order to hear what reader feedback might be applicable to their writing process. This book is already published. I cannot fix it. I cannot help the author by giving this review. My feedback is not critique that she should use to try to fix her book or her next book. It's not a conversation I'm having with the author. It's also not a conversation I want to have about any sort of like political stuff that I feel like was hinted at in here. I don't want Rebecca Yarros to see this video. Please don't send it to her. I don't know why people do that. Hopefully she just never knows who I am. That being said, a lot, not all, but a lot of this review is in the format of what I would say if I were beta reading for this book. It is not an actual beta read, that's just the format I went with for the review because I felt like I wanted to really deep dive on this. What things I would point out and say this doesn't make sense if I were beta reading, because a lot of this does not make sense. Now, if you are a person who loved this book and don't feel like you need those questions answered that I have about this book, that's fine. Both of our reviews are valid, okay? The other thing I want to say is that if you like this book, I am happy for you, genuinely. I mean that in the most genuine sense possible. In fact, I have a lot of friends who love this book. Hi, Allie, my best friend is watching this and she gave this 5 stars. I don't think less of anybody who really enjoyed this. I went to book club for this at BookNet Fest. We had a great time and there was a mix of people who loved it, people thought it was mediocre, and people who hated it like me. People who loved it include Abby. Hi, Abby. It was really nice to meet you. Abby's enthusiasm for certain parts of this book made me feel like I was living vicariously through her, and I'm excited about it for other people when they get that enthusiastic about it. I wish I felt the same. My reading experience does not have to be yours and vice versa. I hate doing disclaimers, but like this is like the big book talk book of the year, and I feel like I have to. I don't want to be doing this right now. I'm just glad you're reading. If you loved it, that's cool. I'm glad, and I'm just glad you're reading. Reading is important. I think part of the thing that's really great about this book, the reason why I'm glad that this book exists in a way, is because I think it's going to get a lot more people back into reading, similar to how Sarah J. Maas got a lot of people back into reading. And I think in that way that I'm glad that certain books exist. I'm not attempting to make anybody feel like shit for liking this book. Everything I'm gonna say is just personal feelings, okay? Alright, I'm not gonna harp on that anymore. The other thing I want to say is I'm so sorry, but this is a 3-part series because I have so much to say about this. I underestimated how much I had to say about this. So today we're doing part 1, which is chapters 1 through 14. I know this video is really long, and yes, I'm only covering 14 chapters. That's how much I had to say. I'm sorry. Then we will do chapters 15 through 30, and then chapters 30 through 40. So 3-part series. I'm sorry. You can check the links below to join channel membership or Patreon if you want early access to the videos and like see them before everybody else. I'm sorry, I didn't want to do a 3-part series, but I am not Crimson Rogue. I can't make a 7-hour video on one. My editing software literally can't handle that. I am going to go ahead and do a little wrap up at the end, which I'm gonna film here in a sec, where I just like go over my basic notes for how I feel about this first third of the book. So if you don't want to watch 2 hours of me saying what, that doesn't make sense, that's fine. You can skip to the end if that works better for you. If you want to hear my full thoughts, settle in, grab a beverage. We're gonna be here a while. So with all that out of the way, welcome to the video. Let's get into it. I have no script. We're doing this raw. Let's talk about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. 15. We're gonna go up to chapter 14. 15. Doing great already. Let's take the dust jacket off. I want to say thank you again to JL for sending me Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros with the pretty pages. It's very pretty. I will give it that. You know what this book is to me? This book is sort of like, have you ever been to any sort of corporate office and outside in their gallery, their office front building, area? There is a fake Christmas tree. You ever been to an office around Christmas time? They have a fake Christmas tree with fake presents underneath. And as a kid, you go in and you're like, oh, presents, can I have one? And your mom's like, no, those are empty. They look really pretty, but they are empty. That's this for me. Let's start out. We have the continent. We have a nice map written like on the, okay? It's on there. This is the continent, which gets capitalized throughout the whole of the book. There is the Arctile Ocean, which I think started probably as Arctic and then ended up Arctile. And we have what is seemingly 3 different countries, I think. Navarre, Peromeo, and the Barons, okay? Both of these countries, the Barons excluded, both of these countries seem to have their own provinces, but Navarre is obviously the larger of the two. We then get a secondary map of Basgiath War College, and I just want to point out to you how small Basgiath War College's infantry is in comparison to the Dragon Riders Quadrant, which doesn't make sense because the Dragon Riders Quadrant has people dying off left and right, whereas the infantry, they don't kill each other for absolutely no reason. And it's even smaller than it looks to me to be smaller than the Healers Quadrant, the Scribe Quadrant. So I don't know what the point was of even having an infantry at all, except to put the word infantry in here. It says, Fourth Wing is a non-stop, it's not stopping, that's for sure, thrilling adventure fantasy set in the brutal and competitive world of a military college for dragon riders. That's That's incorrect. The military college, Basgaev War College, is not just for dragon riders. It is also for scribes and healers and infantry, as I just discussed, but all right. Which includes elements of war, battle, hand-to-hand, blah, blah, blah. And it says, readers who may be sensitive to certain elements, please take note and prepare to enter Basgaev War College. This feels like when you're on a roller coaster at a theme park and it's trying to convince you that you are in an alternate. You have stepped through the doors out of sweaty Disneyland and you are suddenly actually in, I don't know, the world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you are in fact the Hulk, or you are in fact in a galaxy far, far away and you are in Star Wars land and you are actually piloting that ship.
Please remain seated and keep your arms and legs in at all times.
So I get what they were trying to do. That's just, that is what, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what it feels like. Chapter 1. We get these cute little dragons everywhere. And there are, I forget what it's called when a book has like excerpts. I like this typically. This book is interesting in all of its elements. I don't really think that the little thingamajigs at the top of this did anything. I'm doing a really good job on this video so far, aren't I? It says, a dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without its dragon is dead. Which is interesting because on the front of this it says fly or die, right? They don't call them flyers, they call them riders. So shouldn't it say ride or die on the front? Anywho, you know who is called flyers? People who ride the griffins. We'll get there later. So we're in chapter 1 and it says that our main character Violet is being sent into the dragon riders quadrant, and it says, this is what 6 months of intense physical training has given me, the ability to barely climb 6 flights of stairs with a 30-pound pack. I'm so fucked. Yes, that does seem very odd. It does seem as if there should have been like a pre-qualifying thing before you enter a military war college, but no, that's fine. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. And it says, the thousands of 20-year-olds waiting outside the gate to enter their chosen quadrant for service are the smartest and strongest in Navarre. Hundreds of them have been preparing for the Dragon Riders quadrant, the chance to become one of the elite since birth. I've had exactly 6 months. So I just want to point out here that it says that the thousands of 20-year-olds waiting are the smartest and strongest. Hundreds of them have been preparing for the Dragon Riders quadrant. Okay, these are the smartest and the strongest, but that doesn't really matter because everybody gets conscripted anyway. Anywho, and it lets you know that her mom is the general. She is in command of Basgaev War College, and she actually grew up there. This will be important later when I ask questions about it that go unanswered. She goes to her mom's office and her sister, Mira, can be heard arguing with her mom. Damn it, Mom, she can't even handle her rucksack, Mira snaps. She's been back for 5 minutes and is already trying to save me because you need saving, you fool. So we're dealing with like some internalized ableism because the main character has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Internalized ableism is going to be a theme throughout. I don't know that it, for me, I felt like really got dealt with on page in a way that I felt was well done, but I can't speak for that, so I don't have that particular disability, so I can't really say. I will try to find some Own Voices readers to give you links to their reviews down below. But basically, I'm not going to talk about whether or not it's good or bad rep because I don't know. All I can say is like theme-wise, I'm not really sure how I felt about it. So it's really weird how it talks about the infantry because it says, I don't want this. I don't want any part of the Riders Quadrant shit. It's not like I have a death wish. I would have been better off failing the admissions test to Basgaev and going straight to the army with the majority of conscripts. I'm really confused. Does that mean the infantry? Because the infantry is part of Basgaev War College. So are they seen as less than? I'm just really not sure. Is there like a secondary army? I don't know. And the infantry basically never comes up, and they're definitely never seen on page. So I don't know, this whole army, this whole military for this entire continent, which is pretty central, it doesn't make sense to me. It says that her mom is pretty merciless. She doesn't care. She doesn't understand why her mom up and decided, oh, you can't be a scribe. You have to go to the Riders Quadrant 6 months ago and had her start training. Starts describing people saying her golden brown hair, her sister, is sheared short for combat in the same style as mom's. And of course, our main character is set apart by having long hair, which is two-toned. It says of her sister, she's everything I'm not. My traitorous body makes me feel embarrassingly vulnerable. And her mom mom ends up sort of making fun of her, saying pale skin, pale eyes, pale hair. It's like that fever stole all your coloring along with your strength. I told him not to keep you in that library. This is trying to tell us certain things about her right off the bat, but these don't really get brought up in the rest of the book, so it's a little confusing. It's trying to sow seeds that don't really come up for the rest of the book, because the fever that her mom got while she was pregnant with our main character Violet, completely irrelevant to the rest of the story. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if maybe this is saying that the fever that she got maybe caused her disability, which I don't think that's how that works. I'm not really sure. And it never really comes up again, so I don't know. But basically, her mom was sick while pregnant, and now she has pale all over. She is a pale girl. Except she doesn't look all that pale in all the fan art, so I'm not sure how important it was to the actual fans of the story either. And she sort of shits on Violet's dad, who was also a scribe and raised her in the library and wanted her to be a scribe as well, but he's dead now. She says, I will not watch one of my children enter the scribe quadrant, Violet, because scribes are so far beneath writers, I grumble. Yes, and if you dare walk into that tunnel toward the scribe quadrant today, I will rip you out by that ridiculous braid and put you on the parapet myself. Alright? So they're arguing amongst themselves, her mom, her, Mira, and it says, the frustrating thing about it is that mom has always respected Mira for arguing with her. Double standard for the win. And that is the first but not the last clue that a millennial woman wrote this. By the way, it's not even the last time you'll see for the win in this book. They're arguing, they say that dragons don't bond fragile women. Does that imply that they bond fragile men? I don't know. This entire conversation is just meant to give us details. The dialogue's pretty weird. I don't really understand it. Mira, her sister, says, how many writer candidates die on conscription day, Mom? 40, 50? Are you that eager to bury another child? And they're talking about her brother, Brennan, who is dead. So their mom kicks out Mira for saying that, because Brennan was her favorite child. The general says to Violet, our main character, I won't be able to acknowledge you for the next few years. Since as commanding general of Since as commanding general of Basgiath, I'll be your far superior officer. This feels like cardboard people having a conversation meant to teach the audience information rather than like real people having a conversation in a normal people way. Except for the part where we said, you know, for the wind. So Violet leaves and her sister Mira says, the way you're packed is shit. I don't like it. And I'm gonna do for you what Brennan, their older brother who's dead, did for me. She helps her like repack her shit so that she won't fall off the parapet, which is a roughly 18 inches wide thing 200 feet above the ground. And it looks like this, according to the fan art again. And Violet wanted to carry books because she is a scribe who loves books, except she doesn't really consult books very often. She doesn't really quote books. She just quotes information she read in them. And this was just a way for the author to like dump exposition in your lap. But the timing in which she does it doesn't really make any sense. I'm getting ahead of myself. So she helps her repack, dumps out most of her books, except one that's going to help her learn to kill people, which she doesn't really use. In fact, she only kills one person. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then they have this conversation that is very, very robotic in order to give you important information that will only be important at the end of the book, which is an awful way to write. Don't do that. Don't have some weird robotic conversation so that later on we can remember, oh yeah, at the beginning of the book they said that one time. Bring it up organically, normally. Mira sighs, is it that old book of folklore about dark-wielding vermin and their wyvern? Haven't you read it 1,000 times already? Probably more, I admit, and they're venin, not vermin. Dad and his allegory, she said. Just don't try to channel power without it being a bonded rider, and red-eyed monsters won't hide under your bed waiting to snatch you away on their two-legged dragons to join their dark army. This will be important later, can you tell by the way it's written? She has her ditch most of her crap, and she gives her daggers and a corset made of shrunken down scales from Mira's own dragon. She tries to give her a bunch of advice and says, then you will know that other riders can kill you at any time, and the cutthroat cadets will try. Fewer cadets means better odds at threshing. Threshing is when they get their dragons. There are never enough dragons willing to bond, and anyone reckless enough to get themselves killed isn't worthy of a dragon anyway. And Violet says, except when sleeping, it's an executable event to attack any cadet when sleeping. Article 3. And Mira's like, that doesn't mean you're safe at night. And I'm like, wait, go back. So you can be ruthless at any time except during the night, but you're not going to get any points for killing somebody during the day, so why is there a rule about not being able to kill people at night? Never explained. Never explained. But then like 4 sentences later, Mira says there's no such thing as cheating once you climb the turret. Isn't cheating to kill somebody at night? And also, isn't cheating to kill somebody else so you can get a dragon? Her sister tells her to find her friend Dane, who went into the war college a year ago, and then tells her, if you're gonna sleep with people, which you should, which is a weird thing to tell your sister, only screw around within your year, so with the other first years, and says, nothing is worse than cadets gossiping that you've slept your way to safety. Nothing is worse in the war college where they can kill you for no reason. Nothing's worse. More exposition dump. It says, each of Navarre's 6 provinces has sent this year's share of candidates for military service. Some volunteer, some are sentenced as punishment, most are conscripted. The only thing we have in common here at Basgaiath is that we passed the entrance exam. Both written and an agility test I still cannot believe I passed. Me neither, because there's a whole chapter about the gauntlet and how she almost doesn't pass and has to cheat her way, which then she gets called out for cheating, and then because of a loophole she gets through it. Anyway, she passed the agility test, which I can't believe that either, considering what happens at the gauntlet, which means that we won't end up as fodder for the infantry at the front line. I'm confused. So the infantry is not part of the war college then? So then why does it say it on the map that the infantry has their own part of the college? They don't have to pass an entrance exam to get into that part of the college, or do they? And also it says, what, like 3 pages back? The thousands of 20-year-olds waiting outside to enter the gate to enter their chosen quadrant for service are the smartest and strongest in Navarre. So which is it? Were they volunteered? Were they sentenced as punishment? Were they conscripted? Or are they the best and brightest and that's why they get to go? I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it either. She heads towards the parapet and it says, panic fists my heart. And I know that it means that it like feels like a fist is grabbing her heart, but when I initially read that, what I thought is panic fists my heart. Panic does what? Her sister tells her, don't seek friendships in there, Violet. Forge alliances. I bet you can guess what she's gonna do instead. She's gonna seek friendship. And then randomly it says, Amari the queen, there are only 2 ahead of us now. A woman with a full pack whose high cheekbones and oval face remind me of renderings of Amari, the queen of the gods. Her dark brown hair is worn in several rows of short braids that touch the equally dark skin of her neck. They talk about how they see a separatist kids, which is the first we hear about the separatists, and the separatists have a shimmering mark on their wrist. It's a relic from the rebellion. Mira says, Mom says General Melgren's dragon did it to all of them when he executed their parents, but she wasn't exactly open to further discussion on the topic. Nothing like punishing kids to deter more parents from committing the treason. What? Committing treason. Most of the marked kids who carry rebellion relics are from Tirandor, of course, but there are a few whose parents turned traitor from the other provinces. And then she turns to her and says, stay the hell away from Zayden Ryderson. Zayden is spelled with an X. The air rushes from my lungs. That name. That Zayden Ryderson. He's a 3rd year. And it says, he will kill you the second he finds out who you are. Now, this makes the reader believe that Zayden Ryerson has been out for blood, okay, or has made it known to everybody. So somehow we got to the place where it is believed that Zayden Ryerson is murderous and would kill Violet for being the daughter of her mother, the general, who killed his father. His father was the great betrayer. He led the rebellion. What is Zayden doing here? Yeah, that is my question. What is Zayden doing there? All the children of the leaders were conscripted as punishment for their parents' crimes. But into the elite dragon rider school? Why? Why didn't y'all just send them to the infantry? He's risen to the rank of wing leader. Why would you let an enemy's child rise to a leadership role? He's sworn allegiance to Navarre, but I don't think that will stop him where you're concerned. Why do you not feel like that will stop him? Will not stop him. Why? It doesn't say. So her sister sends her off and says, don't die, Violet. I'd hate to be an only child. So she meets 2 people, Dylan and Rhiannon, immediately. Rhiannon's like, I can't fucking wait. Who wouldn't want to ride a dragon? And Violet's like, me. Bet you that changes by the end of the book. Even though the dragons don't show up until a 1/3 of the way through. A 1/3 of the way through a 500-page book. Anyway, moving on. And it says here, riders do get way better perks than other officers. So that makes you think that this Basgaiath War College is an officer training school, right? So that means that the infantry is also officers then, doesn't it? I don't know. I'm very confused about what the infantry is and what it isn't. I'm very confused. Better pay, more leniency with the uniform policy. Don't get me started on the fucking uniform policy, because the point of the military, the reason why they have so many rules is because they're trying to like make you part of like an organism and not have anything that like differentiates you from one to the next. That's why the uniform, that's why the haircut policy, that's why by the earring policy, the tattoo policy, and they've gotten more lax with it, as they should. But like, I don't understand why these people don't have it. If it's so strict, then why not? Explain. Like, I know why our military in the United States is more lax now, but why are y'all? How did we get here? It's not explained. Riders are allowed to marry sooner than the other quadrants, right after graduation. I think it has something to do with wanting to continue bloodlines. Most successful riders are legacy. And Dylan says, I'm not dying. He dies immediately. The next 3 years are going to be long ones, but they'll be worth it, he says about his girlfriend who they're going to do long distance. Because Mira, her sister, gave her rubber boots that would like help with slipping, she feels bad for Rhiannon and they swap one shoe. So each of them is wearing one rubber shoe so that they have both of them a chance to not slip off the parapet. How did we get rubber in a fantasy world? That's my question. We get this entire paragraph right here. I want to show you this of explaining what the future love interest looks like. Okay, this entire thing out of the whole page, this is an entire third of the page. Do you think that there's any chance that they don't have a romance? He's tall with wind-blown black hair and dark brows. The line of his jaw is strong and covered by warm, tawny skin and dark stubble. And when he folds his arms across his torso, the muscles in his chest and arms ripple, moving in a way that makes me swallow. And his eyes are the shade of gold-flecked onyx. The contrast is startling, jaw-dropping even. Everything about him is. His features are so harsh that they look carved, and yet they're astonishingly perfect, like an artist worked a lifetime sculpting him, and at least a year of that was spent on his mouth. He's the most exquisite man I've ever seen. Thoughts? Do you have any thoughts? You're just gonna leave me with this book?
There was so many words and I don't know what he looks like.
You don't say. And living in the war college means I've seen a lot of men. Wow, out of all the men she's seen, he's the hottest, babe.
Oh.
So I'm confused. So you just admitted that you live in the war college, which means you've seen a lot of men, but you've never seen him before and he's been there for 3 years? How's that possible? And then she realized that Mr. Scorching hot, verbatim, gets you into trouble and you like it kind of hot, is Xaden Ryerson. We're shocked. This is shocking news. The black-haired writer snaps his gaze to mine when he finds out that it's Violet Sorengale. Sorengale? He steps toward me. I look up and up. Good gods, I don't even reach his collarbone. He's massive. He has to be more than 4 inches over 6 feet tall. So 6'4"? Why did you just say 6'4"? I mean, we're saying for the wind and get you in trouble and you like it level of hot. Why don't we just say 6'4"? Call it a day. You're General Sorengale's youngest. His voice is deep and accusatory. You're Fen Ryerson's son. I counter. Your mother captured my father and oversaw his execution. Wait, like he has the only right to hatred here? I mean, what? This is so childish. Your father killed my older brother. Seems like we're even. Hardly. By the way, he does think they're even. Like, is there any question that he doesn't actually hate her? Because I'm just gonna erase that from your minds now. He does not actually hate her. He's just a dude with a crush right off the bat, and muscles. A dude with crushes and muscles. Are you going to kill me? I lift my chin another inch. She has to crane her neck like a fucking giraffe to see this incredibly tall man. Never was there a taller man than Xaden Ryerson with an X. While he is contemplating answering this question, which the answer is no, Dylan, remember him? He's our first red shirt. He slips off the parapet and falls. And dies. So I guess he will not be doing long distance with his girlfriend. Why would I waste my energy killing you when the parapet will do it for me? Your turn. Chapter 2. There's a misconception that it's kill or be killed in the Riders Quadrant. Riders as a whole aren't out to assassinate other cadets unless there's a shortage of dragons that year or a cadet is a liability to their wing. Why would you allow liabilities into the war college in the first place? Like, for instance, the military, the US military is like super ableist about who they let in. Like, they won't even let you in if you have like type 1 diabetes. What? Well, I didn't do it. Ow, that fucking hurt. Raybearer just betrayed me. And also, this feels incorrect because they are out to assassinate each other just for like minor inconveniences. If they feel like they just don't like you, they can kill you. It's not really about the dragons. Is that in here just to actually like lie? Because I think that this is the chapter where Jack, who is like the antagonist, gets introduced. He's like the most loser antagonist ever. The hatred in Xaden's stare burns the side of my face like a palpable flame. Dylan is dead. He's just a name. name. We knew him for like 4 pages. I don't think you're gonna lose sleep over that. And it says, she steps out onto the parapet. I send up a silent prayer to Zenal, the god of luck. And this barely comes up the rest of the book. And it's interesting to me that she sends up this prayer, but then she doesn't pray when she's actively going across the parapet, which is like a normal human response for somebody who does actually believe in a religion. But instead, saying this is how she deals with her anxiety. But that just falls flat for me because I feel like what would have made more sense was to use that as a way to talk about the religion. I'll get there in a sec. So she gets onto the parapet, she's really nervous, and she's almost knocked off because it's so windy. And this man named Jack says, some Sorengale with that kind of balance, I pity whatever wing you end up in. This is the Malfoy of the school. He has entered the scene now. Name? Jack Barlow. Remember the name. I'm gonna be a wing leader one day. Even his voice reeks of arrogance. Thank you for telling us that tidbit so explicitly. You better get going, Sorengale, Zayden's deep voice orders. And Jack immediately sounds murderous, and she says, holy shit, he's gonna shove me off. Can he do that? Are there any consequences? Does that not make him a liability to the wing to be so murderous? I don't know. What liability to the wing means is anybody's guess. Calm. I have to stay calm. I can't carry a tune or even decently hum, so singing for distraction is out. But I am a scholar. There's nowhere as calming as the archives, so that's what I think of. Facts, logic, history. But you were just praying a second ago, so why, if you felt the urge to pray the first time, then why not again? Like, if you need to stay calm, like, why not reach out to the, I don't know. So instead, she just exposits. The continent is home to 2 kingdoms, and we've been at war for 400 years. I recite using the basic simple data that has been drilled into me for an easy recall in preparation for the scribe's test. Ah, so you would like this information to be basic simple data that is being drilled into your reader. I see you. Navarre, my home, is the larger kingdom with 6 unique provinces. Why would you say to yourself, Navarre, my home? No, that's just there to remind the reader where she lives. Tirandor, our southernmost and largest province, shares its border with the province of Krovla within the Peromeo kingdom. All of this is going right over the reader's head. It's not sinking in. Not a single lick of it. At least for me. I'm a visual reader, so if I am not willing to like flip back to the map, I'm not going to remember shit about this. And I didn't when I read this book the first time on audio. Yes, I've read it twice now. Technically, doesn't this make a 3rd time? Who knows? And by the time I edit it, won't that be the 4th? Kill me! Instead of expositing like this, we could have put this info in a history class, which that's another one of my gripes with this book, is that the classes we do get don't make any sense. Even we barely get classes at all. But when we do get them, it's not in a way that's like really beneficial for the reader to learn about the college itself or the history of this world. We'll get there. And all of this is exposition, giving us factoids, and none of it sinks in. I have now read this thrice, and it's not sinking in. Navarre and Tirandor was the last of the bordering provinces to join the alliance and swear fealty to King Reginald. It was the only province to attempt secession 627 years later, which would have been successful, eventually left our kingdom defenseless had they been successful. The Kingdom of Peromeo mainly consists of arable plains and marshlands and is known for its textiles, grain, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting to me that I'm not seeing anything about oranges, which will be pertinent later. Jack, who's walking across the parapet as well, grabs a gangly boy by the straps of his overpacked rucksack, and I watch shock locking my muscles as Jack throws the scrawny candidate from the parapet like a sack of grain and says, "You're next, Sorengale." So she's like hightailing it and still telling us about the continent. Tirandor encompasses the southwest of the continent, made up of hostile mountains, terrain and bordered by the Emerald Sea to the west. Nothing about oranges. Again, it will be pertinent later. In fact, it's about Jack. Best to get to the other side where the rest of the murderers wait. Not that everyone in the quadrant is going to try to kill me, just the cadets who think I'm a liability to the wing. There's a reason strength is revered among riders. A squad, a section, a wing is only as effective as its weakest link, and if that link breaks, it puts everyone in danger. This is a terrible system to determine liability. You're relying entirely on the subjectivity of certain people like Jack to determine what liability is. Jack either thinks that I'm that link or he's an unstable asshole who just enjoys killing. And that's not a liability? I thought you said this was the continent's best and brightest. What the fuck? So they get to the end of the parapet and she says, and he's about to kill her and she puts a knife to his balls. She said, I think I'll be safe for now. It is unlawful for a rider to cause another harm while in a quadrant formation or in the supervisory presence of a superior ranking cadet, as it will diminish the efficacy of the wing. And given the crowd behind us, I think it's clear to argue that it's a formation. Article 3, section blah blah blah. And he says, I don't give a shit. Him not giving a shit about the codex is not a liability. So you can kill other riders except in the presence of a superior ranking cadet, or while in formation, or in the supervisory, or while they're asleep. So when can you kill other cadets, and why can you kill other cadets? How is that not losing efficacy in the wing? And a higher ranking cadet says, Cadet Sorengale has you by the actual balls here in more ways than one. We know, you don't have to tell us twice. She's right. Regs state that there's nothing but respect among riders at formation. You want to kill her, you'll have to do it in the sparring ring or on your own time. That is, if she decides to let you off the parapet, because technically you're not on grounds yet, so you are not a cadet, she is. And Jack says, if I decide to snap her neck the second I step down, the guy says, then you get to meet the dragons early. We don't wait for trials around here, we just execute. And that's not losing efficacy in the wing? Huh? And of course, he ends the chapter by saying, you're dead, Sorengale, and I'm gonna be the one to kill you. Chapter 3 starts out by Colonel Kaori's field to Dragonkind talking about the blue dagger tail. So that gives you an idea of what's to come as far as how these dragons are named and classified. Which is weird because I don't understand why the humans got to name the dragons. We'll get there. If Jack wants to kill me, he needs to get in line. Besides, I have a feeling Xaden Ryerson is going to beat him to it. You have a feeling? You weren't told that explicitly? In response to him saying, I'm going to kill you, she says, not today. I feel like I've heard this before.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
She gets off the parapet and a throbbing pain erupts in her left knee. I need to bind it before anybody notices. She's worried about people finding out about her disability, which it's not explicitly named, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but she says she's worried about people finding out. They'll consider her a liability and kill her off. Talking about Rhiannon, who she gave her one shoe to, they're like, we made it! Yay! It says, now that we're both here, both cadets, can I trust her? Immediately, yes. Like, there was no question. There was no forming of alliances. They were just insta-friends. Have you seen the people around here? I swear I just saw a second year with pink streaks in her hair, and one guy has dragon scales tattooed up his entire biceps. Conformity is for the infantry, I say. It is? Why? Why is it only for the infantry? Why would you not need to do the same sort of, if it's necessary, I don't get it. I don't get it. And then we see Dane for the first time. Okay, I want to point out how short Dane's description is in comparison to Xaden, because there's going to be a little bit of a love V here, but as with most love Vs, it's very obvious who the actual guy that she's going to have a romance with is, and who's just there to make it seem like, oh, I might be with that guy.
The three of us, soon to be the two of us.
And I'm one of those two, right?
Dane is very much the Tamlin of this book. The beautiful, easygoing smile that starred in way too many of my fantasies is far from the scowl that purses his mouth, and everything about him seems a little harder, but it works for him. The line of his chin, the set of his brow, even the muscles of his biceps are rigid under my fingers as I try to find my balance. Sometime in the last year, Dane Atos went from being attractive and cute to gorgeous. And then he says, what the hell are you doing here? Her knees give out, and he says, damn it, Violet. And that's when I knew that he was going to be the Tamlin. Everything she does, he's so frustrated with because he's so paternalistic. And he's made like overbearingly paternalistic in a way that Xaden with an X is not made, so that we can distinguish who's definitely the right choice for Violet right away. He lets it be known to Rhiannon that he's a second year rider and not a cadet, and that he's also a squad leader. And he just keeps saying, damn it, Violet, I'm the leader for second squad. Squad leader? The highest ranks among cadets in the quadrant are wing leader and section leader. Both positions are held by elite third years. Second years can rise to squad leaders, but only if they're exceptional. Everyone else is simply a cadet before threshing. When the dragons choose who will bond, and a rider after. People die too often around here to hand out ranks prematurely. But couldn't you also die as a second and third year? I don't know. Also, I'd like to point out the dragons do not have 4 wings, yet this dragon riding school does, and I have no idea why.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
He's like, you're not supposed to be there. And she's like, my mother made me. Every Sorengale is a writer, don't you know? They go to his room so he can help her like bind her wounds. And she's like, oh, but babe, it says I can throw in a few. Oh, Dane cries once we're in your room just for believability. Why would we need to do that? Why would we need to pretend we're having sex? We can just say we were friends. And didn't her sister just tell her not to sleep with second years? Everything's made up. Nothing matters. Platonic friendships are out.
They don't exist.
They're out. They're not cool anymore. He makes a twisting motion with his hand in front of the handle and a lock audibly clicks, and she says, you have powers. It's not news, of course. I mean, it is to the reader. He's a second-year writer, and all writers can perform lesser magics once their dragons choose to channel their power. Why would dragon magic manifest as being able to open locked doors?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
What the fuck would a dragon need that for? And why is that what I don't understand? If anyone else had taken that stumble, they would have ended up with a bruise, talking about her injury. Maybe even a scrape, but me, I have to fix it so that my kneecap stays where it's supposed to. It's not just my muscles that are weak. My ligaments that hold my joints together don't work for shit either. Explaining her injury. So he wraps her leg and it's talking about them. It says, we grew up together through every post our parents had been stationed at. So Basgaiath is not where she always was, but didn't it say that she grew up in the... I don't fucking know. Glad to see our year apart hasn't dulled your tongue, Vi. Mild flirting is happening. Oh, I can do quite a few things with my tongue. You'd be impressed. His eyes heat. I'm imagining things that are not physically possible, but alright. And then it says about her mom forcing her to be part of the writer quadrant. She announced her decree about which quadrant I'd choose last spring after I passed the initial entrance exam, and I immediately started working with Major Gilstead. That's not suspicious, but also we will not get an answer as to why her mom did this in this book, which is ridiculous. This place will kill you, Violet. You can't stay here. Everyone will understand you didn't volunteer. Not really, but I thought you had to be conscripted. I don't understand. You'll break the first time they put you in the sparring ring, and that's before the dragons sense that I'm what? Go ahead and say it. When they sense that I'm less than others, is that what you mean? Damn it, Violet. Stop seeing that. It's enough. No. Even if you survive to threshing, there's no guarantee a dragon will bond you. As it was, last year we had 34 unbonded cadets who had just been sitting around waiting to restart the year with this class to get a chance at bonding again, and they're all perfectly healthy. So you have recycled cadets for no reason. They're just going back through the same training they already went through, which is poor. This is a terrible system. You know that, right? This is a terrible system. It makes sense for basic training. It does not make sense for officer training. And she points out she doesn't want to be called unhealthy, which, fair. Do you think I want to watch my best friend die? Do you think it'll be fun seeing what they'll do to you knowing you're General Sorengale's daughter? Putting on leathers doesn't make you a rider, Vi. They're going to tear you to shreds, and if they don't, the dragons will. In the writer's quadrant, you either graduate or die, or you get recycled over and over and over. I mean, isn't that what you just said? So he's like, let me save you. And she's like, you can't. My mom said she'll drag me back. And he's like, she didn't mean it. Okay, didn't she like kill people? She goes back with her friends and they get introduced to Tara, and she's from the Moraine province in the north along the coast of the Emerald Sea. She has that same air of confidence Mira does, and her eyes dance with excitement as she and Rhiannon talk about how they both obsessed over dragons since childhood. This was an opportunity to talk about how she doesn't relate to obsessing over dragons since childhood, and instead talk about like something she did do in childhood, you know, the books that she read, but we do not. And then we have another paragraph explaining what Xaden looks like, or at least what she thinks about him. Commandant Panchek addresses them and says that they started with 301, or they have 301 cadets, 67 people did not make it. 67 people just died trying to get there. And I'm like, this is the worst system ever. I thought that they were needed. I thought that they were the best and the brightest. Why wouldn't you just channel the best and brightest into a different job? Why not just make them fodder for the infantry? Are we limited on resources? But that doesn't make sense, because if we were limited on resources, why would we let them in the first place? I don't know.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
And Tara lets it slip that Commandant Panchek wants Sorengale, the mom Sorengale's job, and then General Melgren's. General Melgren is the commanding general of all of Navarre's forces. Melgren's beady eyes have always made me shrivel every time we've met during my mother's career. Not so subtly letting us know that General Melgren is not to be trusted. Melgren's dragon gives him the signet ability to see a battle's outcome before it happens. There's no beating that, and you can't be assassinated if you know what's coming. What? What? Yeah, what? What? And this is never explained. What constitutes a battle exactly? How far in advance does he know? Does he see a premonition? Does he have to know? Does he have to already be entered into the battle? What exactly constitutes a battle? How many people have to be involved in order for it to be a battle? If it's just an assassination attempt, if it's just one person, is that really a battle? What? Panchek says, you'll be tested by your superiors, hunted by your peers. Hunted by your peers? I thought that we started a recent chapter by saying they're not out to assassinate other cadets. And guided by your instincts, if you survive to threshing and if you are chosen, you will be riders. Guided by your instincts? Shouldn't you be guided by the codex? Otherwise, isn't it like anarchy? Aren't you just, oh my gosh. Then we'll see how many of you make it to graduation. Statistics say about a quarter of us will live to graduation, give or take. This is a terrible system. And wouldn't people rise up against this? Like if they're sending their daughters, if they're sending their children into this and their children are ending up dead, like what, why is this revered? Like it doesn't say anything about this being used to keep people in line. I don't understand. Discipline falls to your units and your wing leader is the last word. I thought that the dragons were the last word because y'all don't wait for trials. Y'all just let the dragons. Anyway, they're supposed to be in Dane's squad. Some shit gets switched around and they end up in 4th wing, Zayden's wing. Oh my god, I'm shocked. Take a look at your squad. These are the only people guaranteed by the codex not to kill you. What? Wait, what? But just because they can't end your life doesn't mean others won't. You want a dragon? Earn one. This is Zayden talking. So but if your squad determines you're a liability, why can't they kill you? I thought it was all about determining who's a liability, except when it's not, except when you're asleep, and except if they're in your squad, and except if you're in formation, and except if you are there's so many excepts. I don't understand. Can you kill each other or can you not? And why can you kill each other? You're on your way to becoming the elite, the few, the chosen, the proud, the Marines. I know this was written by a military wife. Guess what? I'm one too, okay? So let's not fucking start. The dedication actually reads, to Aaron, my own Captain America, through the deployments, blah, blah, blah. It's always you and me. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I hope this isn't like military glorification because could not fucking be me. Could not be me. I am the most critical of the US military. I have nothing but critiques. Please, I got a whole list. Anywhoosie, there's dragons. And she says, 5 years. She's lived here 5 years. In my 5 years of living here, I've never seen this, but then again, I've never been able to, been allowed to watch what happens on conscription day. But I'm confused about how she's, you've never seen a dragon? Aren't they enormous? I don't understand. You don't go outside? I don't get it. They blast them with steam because apparently dragons just want to fuck with humans, which this will not be the last time that I ask. If dragons think that humans are just like kind of stupid, why aren't the dragons enslaving the humans? That's really my biggest question about this book. And in fact, we talk about this a little and it says, they're all massive, overshowering the structure of the citadel. But you've never seen one while you're outside? Oh, it does say, I've spent my life around dragons, but always from a distance. They don't tolerate humans they haven't chosen. Wait, then why don't they just enslave you all? No, seriously, why don't they? And it says, if they didn't need us puny humans to develop signet abilities from the bonding and weave protection words they power around Navarre, I'm pretty sure they'd eat us all and be done. But why don't they just enslave you and make you put up the wards then? But they like protecting the Vale, the valley behind Basgaeth, the dragons call home, from merciless griffins, and we like living, so here we are in the most unlikely of partnerships. But why is it a partnership? If they think so little of you and they think of you as prey, then why don't they just enslave the humans? Serious question. I mean, how much can they really get out of giving humans lesser magics that unlock doors and some signet abilities like helping them with battles? What? A cadet bolts out of 3rd wing and a dragon just straight up kills them. So if the dragons really don't give a shit, again, I'm gonna keep asking, why don't the dragons just enslave them? They can murder all of you. Why don't they? It even says, once bonded, riders can't live without their dragons, but most dragons can live just fine after us. So like, why don't they just like recycle y'all over and over again? Like they can live without you? Okay, then why don't they just enslave you and recycle you as needed? I don't get it. What's keeping this from happening? The kid is a pile of ash on the gravel.
Is something burning?
My spinach pus.
68 dead. 2 more gusts of heat, and 2 more kids are dead. And a navy blue dragon tilts its head at her. Do you want to guess who's the rider of that dragon? Its narrowed golden eyes can see straight through me to the fear fisting my stomach. fisting once again. And the doubt curled insidiously around my heart. I bet it can even see the wrap binding my knee. It knows I'm at a disadvantage and that I'm too small to climb its foreleg and mount. Dragons always know. Then why don't one of the dragons just kill you now? If they're burning people for running away and they don't care about y'all and they think of you as prey, why aren't they just incinerating you? This doesn't make any sense to me. And it even ends the chapter by saying, you're not untouchable or special to them. To them, you're just the prey. Bro, you just said that they were in an unlikely partnership 1 page ago. Which is it? Anywhoosie, chapter 4, next morning, starts the chapter by saying, Major Offendra's Guide to the Rider's Quadrant. No respectable dragon would choose a rider who cannot defend themselves, and no respectable cadet would allow such a threat to the wing to continue training. Again, who decides what's a threat to the wing and how is that decided? Next morning, they are reading off the names of the dead. It says, the armored corset Mira made me isn't regulation, but I fit right in around the hundreds of modified uniforms around me. So wouldn't modified uniforms just become the culture? Like, wouldn't that be a normal thing to talk about modifying your uniform before you enter Basgaev? And further, why isn't uniformity important here? Because uniformity is really important, especially in basic training in the military, to try to make you feel that sense of camaraderie, that sense that your life is just important as the person next to you, and if you both don't make it, nobody makes it. I don't get it. So then it says, we commend their souls to Malik, and they're talking about the dead, and Malik is the god of death. Religion in this book is sprinkled in willy-nilly. It means absolutely nothing. She sees some scribes walking around, and she says, I ignore the tiny voice inside me protesting that it was supposed to be my quadrant. But this just like feels like empty words. Like, who were your heroes in like scribe land? Like, what were you doing before that you miss doing now? Like, were you sneaking into the scribe quadrant? What classes are the scribes taking that you wish you were taking? Why aren't you making an active effort to do both maybe? It just feels like empty words. Like, why aren't you making a plan for, in the future, if I get out of this, maybe I can somehow do both? Give herself something to look forward to, something to fight for. And then they talk about how they have to go to the sparring gym, and then she says, at some point I have to get my feet under me because I have to handle the gauntlet, the terrifying vertical obstacle course they told us we'll have to master when the leaves turn colors in 2 months. I don't know why she said it that way, because we end up finding out that they use the same month names that we use. Her birthday is in July. Oh god, not her being a fellow Cancer. She's making us look bad. Anywho, I mean, she could have just said the month, but whatever. Why they're not starting training for the gauntlet immediately doesn't make any sense. They start on hand-to-hand combat immediately, but not like terrain. Who knows?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
A couple more people get introduced, like somebody named Sawyer, somebody named Rydok. We'll see how long they last. There were some mild flirty moments in here between her and Dane, but we know it's meaningless because he's the Tamlin of this, and the really hot one is Xaden with an X. No one tried to kill me last night, Dane, or even hurt me. Pretty sure we were all too tired and too relieved to be alive to start slaughtering one another. Wouldn't that be the perfect time to slaughter everybody? Everybody's like weakened, tired, so you just take them out immediately and then you don't have to deal with them the rest of the time. But again, this doesn't make any fucking sense. I've been keeping scribe hours for years, Dane. They're up an hour earlier. It makes me want to volunteer for breakfast duty, actually. It talks about how she has silver-tipped hair and she's pinned it into a bun against the darker crown near the top of her head, and he says, you should cut it. And she's like, don't start with me. There's a reason women keep it short here, Vi. The second someone gets a hold of your hair in the sparring ring, wouldn't it make sense that all of them would be forced to shave their heads then? My hair is the least of my concerns in the sparring ring. Hard disagree. Anybody could just grab you by your hair at any point and stab you in the neck. But okay. Why you're not trying to give yourself the best chance at survival is, it's actually not weird to me. It makes total sense because she wants to be set apart. She wants to be not like other girls. I'm not gonna cut my hair. She asked Dane, why was my squad moved from 2nd wing to 4th? And he said, it was because of Xaden Ryerson. He wants a direct line to you. I'm his revenge against my mother, she says. I'm not gonna let anything happen to you, Dane says, his thumb stroking over my cheekbone in a soothing motion. I have to get to class, she says. Academics are the one place I don't have to worry. No one is going to assassinate me during history. So if you think that we're going to get into history class to like learn about the history of this continent and its relationship to the life that the characters are currently living, you're wrong. We're not gonna get that at all. Do you honestly think he'll stab me in the middle of battle brief? For some reason, battle brief, she has that class with Xaden Ryerson. Anyway. I wouldn't put it past him. He's fucking ruthless, Violet. Why do you think his dragon chose him? Sigale? Sigale? Is there a reason why you made the name Sigale the name of the dragon when that sounds awfully close to the word scale? She's vicious. Don't get me wrong. Kath, his dragon's name is Kath. The other dragon's name is Sigale. Is a nasty piece of work when he gets riled. All red sword tails are. So we have blue dagger tails and red sword tails. So the humans are obviously the ones naming, right? Why would the dragons not want to name themselves? If they think that you're prey, why are they not like, you better call me by my real name, you stupid tiny bitch? I don't know. If I were a ruthless dragon who thought of you as prey, I would want you to call me by my real name. But even most dragons steer clear of Sigale. So why do certain dragons have, what is that, Gaelic names, and then others just have like, the two people I know named Kath are both Canadian people. So I'm very confused. Here's where it gets really fucking stupid, okay? She talks about how he bonded a dragon, and she says, you have powers I don't even know about. You open doors with magic. And I'm like, how was that even discovered? You think it's gonna be taught in history class? Nope, because we're not going to history class. Kath channels a pretty significant amount of magic compared to some of the other dragons, but I'm nowhere near adept at it yet. I haven't changed that much. As for lesser magic powered throughout the bond of my relic, I can do the typical stuff like open doors, crank up my speed, and power ink pens instead of using those inconvenient quills. What? What?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
What are you talking about? What? How would you even discover, first of all, that once you have bonded with a dragon, you can use what? Powered ink pens. What? So why wouldn't it be that you can like, so you can crank up your speed, but you can't like see further? You can't have like harder skin like a dragon? You can power ink pens and open locked doors? What? Why? What does this even mean? What does this have to do with dragons? Oh my god, this is so stupid. She asks him, what's your signet power? And explains every writer can do lesser magic once their dragon begins channeling power to them, but the signet is the unique ability that stands out, the strongest skill that results from each unique bond between dragon and rider. So she already knows this, okay? This is a known fact to her. And yet somehow, later in the book, after we've already been at the War College for a long ass time, Jack, remember Draco Malfoy, does not know that information. How? The signet is unique, blah, blah, blah. Some writers have the same signets. Fire wielding, ice wielding, and water wielding are just a few of the common signet powers. Want to guess if anybody important in this book has a common signet power? They don't. They're all special. My mother can wield the power of storms. Melgren can see the outcome of battles. Still waiting on an explanation there. I can't help but wonder again what Xaden's signet is. Why are you thinking about him all the time? It's so weird. And if he'll use it to kill me when I least expect it. I mean, he hasn't done it yet, so I think you're okay, babe. I can read a person's recent memories. Not like an intrinsic reads minds or anything. I have to put my hands on the person, so I'm not a security risk. So what the fuck is an intrinsic and why are they a security risk? And like, how would you determine that? And also, what? He points to the compass patch beneath his fourth wing one on his shoulder. Wearing that sigil indicates that a signet is too classified. Why would you expose that? What if an enemy finds that out? That's stupid. This place can warp almost everything about a person, Vi. It cuts away the bullshit and the niceties, revealing whoever you are at your core. So that's kind of like what they talk about when people go into the military and they experience basic training. It talks about breaking you down and then rebuilding you as they want you to be, which is kind of sick when you think about it, but we won't go there today. But that doesn't really make sense because they are still being told to prioritize their own subjective desires, like wanting a dragon, over the good of the wing. So, I don't know. They want it that way. They want it to sever your previous bond so your loyalty is to your wing. Do they want you to be loyal to your wing? Because they allow you to kill each other. So, I'm confused. It's one of the many reasons that first years aren't allowed to correspond with their family and friends. Otherwise, you know I would have written you. Yes, he was too busy building loyalty by being in a death competition with his wingmates who he's supposed to have loyalty to. Okay. Look, Ryerson is still a wing leader. He'll be after you, but he'll find a way to do it within the rules of the Codex. Why would the Codex be written in a way that allows you to kill each other? How is that promoting loyalty to your wing? That is promoting self-interest, which is against, it's either you're prioritizing the good of the wing or you're prioritizing yourself. It cannot be both. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up and a chill races down my spine. Oh shit. Xaden Ryerson, with an X, is watching me with narrowed eyes, the sleeves of his uniform rolled up his massive arms that remain folded across his chest. The warning in his relic-covered arm on full display as a third year next to him says something that he blatantly ignores. He is too cool for school. It doesn't say that last part, but I feel like we had to have that little edgy thrown in there. He says to the two of them, I already knew your parents are tight. Parents are tight? This was written by a millennial. But do you two have to be so fucking obvious? Childhood friends? First loves even? Shut up. It's weird. Stop making it weird. Just go away. Pretend you don't care. It'd be better if you just pretended you didn't care about anything. And so she says to Dane, he can't hurt you without cause, right? Without cause, and calling a quorum of wing leaders because you're a squad leader. Article 4, Section 3. But what about liability? What if he determines Dane to be a liability to the wing? And so Dane's like, run, Violet! And she books it. Chapter 5, Stabby School's first class is Battle Brief with Professor De Vera. So for some reason, in this war college, we don't intermingle. We don't have scribes and healers and infantry learning about Battle Brief, even though you would think that Battle Brief would be something that infantry might need to know about. No. What we do have is, for some reason, the first years are mixing with the second and third years at Battle Brief. Why? And why are we not adding the infantry, therefore adding in more characters and more understanding of the world of Basgiath War College? We don't know. Not explained. Senior third years are standing against the wall behind us. It's a far cry from history last hour where there were only 3 squads of first years, but at least the first years in our squads are all seated together. Now if I can only remember all their names. Yeah, their names are all meaningless because most of these people are going to die anyway, and you won't really get to know them before they die. It means nothing. Professor De Vera says, in the past, riders have seldom been called into service before graduation. And it talks about how dozens of mage lights illuminate the space. What's a mage light? What's a mage? No idea. No fucking clue. Never gonna find out either. I mean, presumably this means that mages exist, right? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. It says, you need to understand the politics of our enemies, the strategies of defending our outposts from constant attack, and have a thorough knowledge of both recent and current battles. Which I agree. Unfortunately, Battle Brief is not really used in this as much as it should be. And it says that Violet had kept her ears open around her mother to know certain things. This is the only class that you will have every day because it's the only class that will matter if you're called into service early. What? You're telling me that the only thing they'll need to know in service is Battle Brief information? If they're called into service, that presumably means that they will have to fly a dragon, yes? So why is flying a dragon class not done every day? Why is the gauntlet training for that, which is like, you know, you'll have to traverse areas in case you fly off your dragon or in case you have to go somewhere where there is no dragon. Battle Brief is the only thing you need to do every day? Are you serious? No, that doesn't make any sense. Also, there is a scribe helping teach this class, but there are no scribes in the class. Why? I don't know. It is the duty of the scribes not only to study and master the past, but to relay and record the present. Okay, so why aren't scribes in this class? Without accurate depictions of our front lives, reliable information with which to make strategic decisions, and most importantly, veracious details to document our history for the good of the future generations, we're doomed. And Violet's like, which is exactly why I've always wanted to be a scribe. Not that it matters now. You're right, it doesn't matter. We're 57 pages in and I just don't believe that you actually care about being a scribe. But further, wouldn't it make more sense to like incorporate everybody into if this is really about the good of Navarre and the good of this college succeeding, wouldn't they make like interdepartment cooperation a thing? Wouldn't they do that? I don't get it. Like, you're gonna have to work together eventually, right? Why not work together now? Doesn't make sense. The Eastern Wing experienced an attack last night near the village of Chacker by a drift of bravey griffins and riders. And it says, oh shit, and I dipped my quill into the ink pot on the desk in front of me so I can take notes. I can't wait to channel so I can use the type of coveted pens Mom keeps on her desk. A smile curves my lips. There could definitely be perks to being a writer. There will be. Okay, do dragons use pens or no? Because why would that be a power that y'all get? I don't get it. Okay, so it says the wards faltered along the top of the Espen Mountains, allowing the drift not only to enter Navarian territory, but for their riders to channel and wield sometime around midnight. And it says dragons aren't the only animals capable of channeling powers to their riders. Griffins from Peromeo also share the ability, but dragons are the only ones capable of powering the wards that make all other magic but their own impossible within our borders. They're the reason Navarre's borders are somewhat circular. Their power radiates from the veil and can only extend so far. I know those are words, but none of it's actually sinking in for me. Like, I literally can't recite that back to you. I don't understand this, and I've read this twice. Like, I'm not trying to be like stupid or silly right now. I literally don't get it. I just don't get it. It says that Peromeo wants their resources. Until they learn to be content with our trade agreements, we have no chance of ending conscription in Navarre. No chance of experiencing peace. Wait, so ending conscription is ideal? I thought y'all were already getting the best and brightest. And I thought that people were volunteering. If you get enough volunteers, why do you need conscription? And again, how are you already conscripting the best and brightest? I don't understand. 37 civilians were killed in the attack an hour before a squad from the eastern wing could arrive, but the riders and dragons managed to repel the drift. I don't know. It's all just words. Dragons could channel more power than griffins, so why attack in that mountain range? What caused the wards to falter there? And so they're asking questions like, is this the first time the wards have faltered? How often are they faltering? And it says, that's above your pay grade, cadet. Okay, then why did you allow them to ask any questions? Anyway, we get introduced to... Oh, my pages are sticking together. We get introduced to new people in her wing squad something. Pryor and Luca. We'll see how long they last. And she tells her friend Rhiannon to ask what altitude the village is at. It's a little less than 10,000 feet, which seems a little high for a planned attack with griffins. She gets in trouble for not asking her own questions, and now everybody knows who she is. But I mean, wouldn't everybody know who she is anyway? Like, wouldn't Jack be like running around telling everybody? Wouldn't Xaden, if he was actually out to get her? Griffins aren't as strong as that altitude, and neither is their ability to channel, she says. It's an illogical place for them to attack unless they knew that the wards would fall, especially since the village looks about to be, what, an hour's flight from the nearest outpost? And she points out where Shaker, the city, is and says, scribes training for the win. 60 pages for the win is twice used. Wow. They somehow knew the wards were breaking, she figures out. One of the dragons in the wing sensed the faltering ward and the wing flew. Had they not, the casualties would have been far higher and the destruction of the village much worse. By the way, we get a random throw-in saying that she's praying to Dune, the goddess of war, that she's wrong, that somehow they knew that the wards were breaking. And Jack thinks that her assertion is stupid, and then Professor Devera says, let's see if you can be a little more respectful to your fellow cadets. Respectful? You let them kill each other. You let them determine whether or not they personally think each other is a liability and kill each other. Why would that make a situation in which they respect each other? They're constantly looking for a way to be better than their peer so that they can get a dragon instead of their peer. There is no prioritizing the good of the wing and respect of your fellow airmen. This is stupid. Xaden chimes in and says, the village. Professor Devera said the damage would have been worse, but what was the condition? Was it burned? Destroyed? They wouldn't demolish it if they were trying to establish a foothold. The condition of the village matters. Devera says the buildings were burned and the rest was being looted. And Xaden says they were looking for something. I honestly don't even remember the relevance of this. And she's like, and that right there is why Ryerson is a wing leader. You need more than strength and courage to be a good rider. And so they're like, what's the answer? And they're like, oh, we don't actually know. We were here trying to figure it out too. We don't fucking know. We don't know anything. So is it really battle brief, or is it just help us figure out what we don't know? I thought we were actually going to see history class at some point. We did not. And it says, you seriously knew every answer in history and apparently every right question to ask in battle brief. That's because Violet's the special. Honestly though, I'm still mad that we didn't see fucking history classes. You're not even going to have to study for tests, are you? Well, no, I mean, if we're not going to have to see the history class, why would we have a scene with her studying for history class? Of course not. This is a fun way to avoid explaining history in a normal way. And by that I mean, I hate it. They go to sparring class and it says, no blades today, we're just assessing. But I thought that they could assess each other at any time and decide to kill each other. I don't get it. So, super fun. Jack walks in, fights somebody, and immediately snaps their neck. Their instructor in his wing says, what did I say? You broke his damn neck. Jack's like, how was I supposed to know that his neck was that weak? So, him not knowing that he could snap a neck very easily and killing his own wingmate is not a liability to the wing? Okay, sure. Another girl comes in and says, Sorengale, you really should dye your hair if you don't want everyone to know who your mother is. You're the only silver-haired freak in the quadrant. So that last scene where she was worried about everybody figuring out that she was a Sorrengail by her last name is moot because they can figure it out by her hair? Okay. Never said I cared if everyone knows who my mother is. In the last scene, okay. And pink-haired girl goes, "You bitch, your mother murdered my family." Isn't that treason? Is she just trying to be the Sansa Stark of this story? They get into a physical fight and she hits the mat. Dane says, "You can't use your powers in here, Imogen. You can't use your powers in sparring, but you can kill each other in other places." Why are the rules so random? She refuses to yield. Imogen breaks her bones, specifically broke her arm and dislocated her shoulder, and we move on to chapter 6. Dane carries her into the healer quadrant, and it says, "Healers do not have magic, relying on traditional tinctures and medical training to heal as best they can, but menders do have magic." And it's actually a signet, which means that whoever's doing the mending has to be a dragon rider. Mending is exceptionally rare among riders. Yeah, because it's an overpower. It doesn't make sense. My brother Brennan was a mender and would have become one of the greatest had he lived. But how do you know that? Like, what makes a mender great? I don't get it. And Dane wants to convince them, like, to take her to the scribe quadrant because, like, she's getting her ass kicked. If she's injured this severely, surely we can see if the scribes will take her as a late admission. It's only been a day. It's only been a day? God, I feel like it's been forever. His reasoning for not wanting a mender sinks in. My anger is able to pierce through the pain long enough for me to bite out, "I'm not going to the the scribe quadrant." Nolan, the mender, says, "I've never agreed with the way they conscripted those kids into the writer's quadrant as punishment for the sins of their parents. We've never forced conscripts into that quadrant ever, and for a very good reason. Most cadets don't survive, which was likely the point, I suspect." I have so many questions. Then aren't they fodder just as much as the infantry? I just don't get it. I don't understand. And Dane's like, "You won't mend her then, right? She doesn't stand a chance if she goes back in there and has a cast or has to defend herself while her shoulder heals from reconstruction surgery. The last one took 4 months." And she's like, "Mend me, but just this once. If the others see that I need mending all the time, they'll think I'm weak." Dane literally begs, saying, "Please switch quadrants. If not for you, then for me." No. No. And she says, "I made my choice." Nolan says to Dane, if she was any other first year, you would already be gone." Isn't this a liability? Doesn't this make Dane a liability? So if liabilities are a problem to the wing, then why can't, like, somebody, like anybody, report him? They put her in a sling, and she says, "Slings say weak, they say breakable, they say liability to the wing." Then why didn't you just let him fully mend you? I don't understand. She goes back to their dorms, and Rhiannon's there. And Rhiannon's like, "I'll help you get ready. You're the only friend I have in here, so I'd rather you didn't die when it gets real." When it gets real. And on her bed, she finds a note from her sister, Mira. It says that she bribed a scribe to sneak this into her bunk, and it is a book written by their brother Brennan for Mira the summer before she entered the quadrant. It says, "It saved me and it can save me. It can save you too." And it's called the Book of Brennan. And it says, "It's my brother's. Mother burned everything he owned after he died, as tradition dictates." Tradition or religion? Because in the beginning it said that you guys burned everything because of Malik. He died 5 years ago. And Rhiannon says, "Oh, we don't always burn everything either. Sometimes it's nice to have something, you know?" Yeah. This will be important later because they walk this back. And no mention of Malik here, the god of death, which is interesting because the religion in here is just used willy-nilly, sort of like the killing rules at the War College. And part of what Brennan says is, what the instructors don't tell you is that they decide the challenges of who fights who in sparring the week before. Any cadet can request a challenge, yes, but instructors will assign your matches based on weeding out the weakest. If they want to weed out the weakest, why don't they just have them fight to the death? I don't get it. And she says, "I know how to survive," meaning she's going to figure out who she's fighting and do something beforehand. Anywhoosie, chapter 7. In the best interest of preserving peace within Navarre, no more than 3 cadets carrying rebellion relics may be assigned to any squad of any quadrant. Why would any be assigned to any quadrant in the right? If it's about preserving peace, then why do you allow any of them into the riding school? And it also says that marked ones assembling in groups of 3 or more will now be considered an act of seditious conspiracy, and it's a capital offense. But revenge killing Violet because she's her mother's daughter, or breaking her bones in Imogen's case, is not a capital offense. That's not seditious conspiracy. I don't get it. Anyway, 9 days goes by. She's been sneaking out.
Ugh, he's doing his own theme music?
and using her book of poisons that she brought with her. And it says that she's climbing around by moonlight and memory. She's climbing up a tree, okay? Suddenly she sees Imogen and Xaden Ryerson and a bunch of other riders, and they all have rebellion relics.
Oh, yeah. It's all coming together.
So they are breaking the rules that were just stated at the beginning of the chapter if you missed it. I didn't. This gathering could be completely harmless, right? Or maybe marked ones are plotting to burn Basgaev to the ground and finish what their parents started. Why are they allowed in the war college at all? We've done this for 2 years and they've never found out. Xaden responds or lets slip while she very conveniently is climbing up the tree that they just happened to meet other. By the way, so they've been having these meetings, and she's also been climbing this tree, but she's never seen any cadets before. She's never seen him before. She's lived there for 5 years. They've been doing that for 2. She's never seen them. I don't get it. He says, there are only 41 of us. We don't want to lose any of you. We will if you don't help yourselves. And she's like, I don't want to find out a single thing about Xaden Ryerson is admirable. And yet here he is being all annoyingly admirable. Have to admit, it would be nice if a high-ranking writer from my province gave a shit if the rest of us from the province lived or died. Yeah, and it makes no sense that they don't. And then we get introduced to, we are on page 81, okay, and we get our first introduction to Liam, who is the top cadet in our year already. Okay, there's also the rest of the squad. It's Xaden, Imogen, Liam, the big one, Garrick, it says the big one, I didn't make that up. One with tawny brown skin, another one, crowned by a cloud of black curls and a litany of patches. His features are close enough to Xaden's that they might be related. Cousins, maybe? Yes. Cousin. His name is Bodhi. So that's the squad, okay? And he's like, he wants to help them problem solve. And a first year says to him, battle brief. It's not that I can't keep up with the information, ... And Xaden says, you learn what they teach you. Keep what you know, but recite whatever they tell you to. Violet's like, what the hell does he mean by that? What do you think? Use context clues. 2 brain cells. Come on. It hits me then. Other than being gathered in a group of more than 3, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing here. There's no plot, no coup, no danger. You were just asking 4 sentences ago what he meant by keep what you know, but recite whatever they tell you to. Hello? Where are the brain cells? And a guy towards the back says, when do we get to kill Violet Sorengale? And Imogen says, yeah, Xaden, when do we finally get to have our revenge? So y'all admit that it's revenge. Why is meeting up in a group seditious conspiracy, but killing the general's daughter is not conspiracy and a capital offense? That doesn't make any sense. Her mother is responsible for the execution of my mom and sister. I should have done more than just snap her shoulder. Her mom is responsible for the capture of nearly all our parents, Garrick says, not her daughter. Punishing children for the sins of their parents is the Navarian way, not the Tirish. I mean, Xaden's been saying he's gonna kill her, and also Imogen just snapped her arm. So we get conscripted because of what our parents did years ago and shoved into this death sentence of a college. Why don't they just kill them? Don't forget, her brother was Brennan Sorengale. She has just as much reason to hate us as we do her. And I'm not going to tell you again, she's mine to handle, Xaden says. Anyone feel like arguing? And she brings up Xenal again, the god of luck, saying Xenal must have a soft spot for me because I'm the luckiest woman on the continent, because she thinks that she's gotten away unscathed with being there and they're all leaving, and then suddenly a shadow lunges behind me. And this is the part where I said, oh, come on. Shadow magic's my favorite. Please don't ruin it for me by being stupid. And this is just him being the Rhysand of this book, essentially. Scream and you die, he whispers. Fucking Sorengale. How did you know? Let me guess, you could smell my perfume? Isn't that what always gives away the heroine in books? What? Why would you say such a weird thing out loud where everyone, including me, can hear you? He says, I command shadows, but sure, it was your perfume that gave you away.
Oh, feel the power.
Oh, I could feel it.
This conversation is terrible. This is terrible. I hate it. You look all frail and breakable, but you're really a violent little thing, aren't you? Okay. And she's basically like, are you gonna kill me or no? And he's like, not tonight. But like, let's be serious. He's not gonna kill her. He doesn't care. Chapter 8. There is an art to poison not often discussed, and that is timing. Only a master can properly dose and administer for effective onset.
Oh, right. Poison. The poison for Cusco. The poison chosen specially to kill Cusco. Cusco's poison.
One must take into account the mass of the individual as well as the delivery. This is actually good continuity for a later failure that she has. The problem, though, is that the poisoning that she does not make any sense, because I don't understand how she did not get caught. This was the most obvious, heavy-handed plan that she could have gone with. It's terrible. Dane's like, I can't understand why you choose breakfast duty over every other assignment. And she's like, I have my reason. You have reasons? That's not suspicious. Just say you like breakfast. Don't make yourself so suspicious. You just found out that Xaden has shadow magic. He could be listening to you. You don't know how the shadow magic works. For all you know, he's in every shadow listening to you. Stop making yourself look suspicious. Stop being so stupid. She runs into Rhiannon while they're walking, her and Dane, and Rhiannon's coming out of Tara's room because Rhiannon is the promiscuous bisexual of the group. Great, love that stereotype for me. We have curfew for a reason, Cadet. Well, what is the reason? Because the fucking rules in this book are so willy-nilly. Who fucking cares about curfew? I don't even need sleep. I stay up past curfew because I'm so hard and I can stay up all the time. Sleep is for weaklings. I'm not a liability to the wing. Like, everything is stupid. And then they like skirt around wanting to ask each other about their sex lives, her and Dean. He's like, is there a sex life to ask about? And she says, since I got here, none of your business. Before I got here, still none of your business. So alluding to the fact that Violet is not a virgin, which makes me ask the question, if you were sleeping with people in the last 5 years of you living at Basgiath War College, how did you meet them? Where did they come from? Wouldn't Dane know them? Wouldn't he start asking, wait, was it so-and-so? Who were they? Were they other commanding officers' kids? Were they people that worked there? Aren't you going to see them? Why aren't you seeing them? This place can't be that big. I don't get it. And it says that Jack Barlow is already responsible for too many names on the death roll. And she says the dragons are going to love him. What? What can humans do that dragons can't? Like, why don't, if they want more death, then why don't they just kill them all themselves? He's already responsible for too many names on the death roll. Why does that not make him a liability? And she's like, you know, and he says once again, it's not too late to sneak her down to the scribe quadrant. Fitzgibbons will still take you. And it's like, my guy, you've been told so many times that her mom will just drag her back. Why are we still having this conversation other than to make you look like a jerk? I take my place in the serving line an hour later and completely undetectable the poison as I sprinkle it over Oren Seifert's scrambled eggs when he approaches. So she was up in that tree to gather a poisonous material that she then went on to sprinkle over the eggs of the person that she was serving at breakfast, because that's who she was supposed to. She found out that she was supposed to fight this guy Oren based on the information Brennan gave her about like them literally listing out who is going to be fighting who, which that seems like a really stupid idea. And it's interesting that they're still doing it that way years and years later after Brennan is dead, but okay, whatever. So she sprinkles it over Oren Seifert's scrambled eggs, right? Okay, so then they go on to class. They're talking to Professor Kaori, who talks about a green dagger tail, a red scorpion tail. These names are fucking ridiculous. I know the dragons don't want to be called that. And it says that Professor Kaori is an illusionist and the only professor in the quadrant with the signet ability to project what he sees in his mind, which makes this class one of my favorites. He's also the reason I knew exactly what Oren Seifert looked like. Do I feel guilty about blatantly misleading a professor about why I needed to find another cadet? No. Do I think it's cheating? Also no. How she convinced him to show her what Oren Seifert looks like, I don't know. This is so suspicious, and the fact that he doesn't figure out later that she poisoned him is, this is so stupid. And he's giving information about the temperament of dragons. Red scorpion tails, quickest to tempered. If you offend them, you're lunch. And how to approach certain dragons. But wouldn't the first thing we need to learn about dragons be like how to ride them? Because if you can't ride a dragon, I don't feel like there's going to be any point in like, this is just ridiculous. Fewer dragons are choosing to bond, but the number of riders entering the quadrant has remained steady. Yeah, because y'all demand that people enter. Because you conscript them, right? Why don't you just set a cap and send the rest to infantry? There's no reason for all this loss of life. Anyway, they don't share their reasons as to why the dragons are unwilling to bond, and anyone who respects their life won't ask a question they're not willing to answer. Why don't the dragons just enslave the humans? I don't get it. And this just seems like a cop-out to ask why the dragons won't share their reasons about why they won't bond. But then later it says, oh, the dragons, they won't bond with people they think are weak, and it's like, so are you guessing? Is this fact? I don't know. Over here it has blue daggertail capitalized, and then daggertail by itself is not capitalized. I don't really understand. Then it talks about black dragons. They are the rarest. There's only 2 of them. One belongs to General Melgren and the other has no rider. There's no such thing as outsmarting a black dragon. We probably would have lost during the Tirish Rebellion if it wasn't for the black dragons. The last thing that this kingdom needs is someone as cruel as Jack bonding to a black dragon. No, thank you. Wait, so you're admitting then that he's a liability. Why don't you just report him? And it says here, I bet he powers one hell of a signet. So is the power of the dragon directly correlated with how strong the signet is? I don't get it. Jack asks how you approach the black dragon, and it says, you don't. He hasn't agreed to bond since his previous and only rider was killed during the uprising. And the only way you'd ever be near him is if you're in the Vale, which you won't be because you'd be incinerated before you even got through the gorge. So the dragons don't even let humans in their territory? Why aren't the dragons enslaving the humans? This doesn't make any sense. And the info that we get on dragons is so random. And why is this not part of the entrance exam? Like, why do you not need to have a basic knowledge of dragons in order to join the dragon riding school? I don't get it. And Jack asks, what signet ability would this guy gift his rider? And it says, signets are the result of the unique chemistry between rider and dragon, and usually say more about the rider than the dragon. Why? Why would Jack not already know that? How is that not common knowledge in a country where dragon riding is so revered? They talk about Naolin and how his signet was siphoning. He could absorb power from various sources, other dragons, other riders, and then use it or redistribute it. I don't understand what power means. Power is in like life force? And it said he attempted to use that power to revive a fallen rider, which didn't work because there's no signet capable of resurrection. So does power then definitely mean life force? I don't get it. And she's like, it was Brennan, wasn't it? Yes, he died trying to save your brother, but Brennan was too far gone. So Brennan died. Doesn't say anything about a body. How convenient. Naolin also died trying to save Brennan. Why would he do that? And he doesn't answer. If I had to guess, I don't know, maybe they were lovers or something, but we don't really hear about that guy again. Brennan was a spectacular rider and a good man. Mira is shrewd and gifted in the seat when it comes to riding, but you're smarter than both of them. This is here to tell the reader that this is a fact, but that fact has not actually been shown within the book. So anyway, they choose strength and shrewdness. And she's like, oh, the dragons won't choose me. They choose strength and shrewdness. And he says, they choose for reasons they don't fit to share with us. Not all strength is physical, Violet. So now it's making it sound like the dragons are just smarter than the humans and not really seeing the humans as prey. So if they think that they are, if it's like a paternalistic thing, then again, if not for like hatred and hunger, why aren't they enslaving us just because they think they're better than humans? I don't get it. Moving on, Dane tells her that Jack Barlow and his friends are going to try to kill Violet because he's convinced people that she's a liability to the wing. And she, of course, tells Jack Barlow to fuck off. And he's like, what the hell was that? I told you to lay low and you just piss him off even more. Stop it. You don't have to make it so obvious that this is the Tamlin. Laying low isn't getting me anywhere. He needs to realize I'm not a liability. But he has already convinced himself and others. And also, what a liability means is so subjective that you can't, this is just stupid. And so she gets into the ring with Oren, who has been convinced by Jack to kill Violet because she's a liability, according to Jack. Why they're all listening to Jack, I have no idea. But remember, she poisoned Oren. At breakfast, somehow, without being seen, she sprinkled stuff on his eggs.
Oh, right. The poison for Cusco.
And he's like, don't take this personally, but you'll only be a liability to your wing. Anyway, he basically gets sick at just the right time, so she wins, he loses. Timing is the hardest thing about my plan. No, the hardest thing about your plan is that the long-term effectiveness of this is 0. This is only gonna work maybe twice without people getting suspicious. Except she keeps doing it. I win the next week and a stocky girl from first wing can't concentrate. I win the week after that when a tall guy in third wing stumbles because his I win again the next week. She keeps earning daggers and people are like not getting suspicious that all of her opponents are having health complications. I don't get it. Once again, she wins and then suddenly she gets paired with somebody who doesn't step forward because Roma has been taken to the healers preemptively because she cannot walk a straight line because Violet poisoned her, and somehow this does not make anybody suspicious. She's like, that prickle of ice along my scalp. The scalp prickling and the scalp tingling is going to happen a bunch of times in this book whenever Xaden pops up. And he does, and he walks onto the mat to fight her. That wasn't part of the plan, oh no! Okay, chapter 9. They're gonna fight. This chapter is so goofy to me. You didn't think of an alternate plan. You didn't think that this was gonna happen. You didn't think that you would have to, that somebody would be subbed in. She's like, I'm so completely screwed. How are you smart if you don't account for things like this? Xaden steps forward, all 6 foot everything of him. I thought we agreed he was 6'4". Dressed in midnight fighting leathers and a tight-fitting short-sleeve shirt that only seems to make the shimmering dark rebellion relics on his skin seem like an even bigger warning, which I know is ridiculous but somehow true. Huh? And Dane is like, I don't think this is fair. And Xaden's basically like, shut up, bitch. Because we can't have a love triangle without the boys fighting. He's not in my squad. He could kill me without punishment. I fling a dagger straight at his ridiculously well-sculpted chest. Yes, this is the perfect time to remind us that it's ridiculously well-sculpted. The only thing ridiculous here is using the word ridiculously to describe his chest. But he catches it in his hands. His ridiculously well-sculpted, assumedly, hands. Going for blood, are we today? Violence? My name is Violet. He knows. I think my version fits you better, he says. Okay. There's no use slamming my head back. He catches her. He's so tall that I'd only annoy him. I mean, you could try anyway and try to like break a bone. Okay. This is just here to remind us that she's so tiny and he's so big. Don't trust a single person who faces you on this mat, he warns. Even someone who owes me a favor? Oh yeah. Remember when she found them under the tree and they were doing an illegal meetup? He now owes her a favor because she didn't tattletale on him. Cool. I'm the one who decides when to grant that favor, not you, Xaden says. But isn't she the one with the upper hand considering that she could turn you in for a fucking capital offense? Okay. He's better at fighting. I'm so shocked. And he's teaching her to be better at fighting, which Dane could never. Taking out your enemy before the battle is really smart. I'll give that to you. Oh god, he knows what I've been doing. Yeah, I'm shocked he's the only one. You've made it blatantly fucking obvious despite being told that you're smart. Problem is, if you aren't testing yourself in here, then you're not gonna get any better. A bunch of really cringe dialogue. He seizes my wrist and pins it above my head. Ooh, sexy. He like says, you're tiny, well aware, she says. Same, because we've been told 1,000 times that you are so tiny, and he's so big. He's like, stop going for bigger moves. You should hit the kidneys at this angle. The kidneys are a good fit from this angle. And she says, I swallow, refusing to think of other things that are a good fit at this angle. No, ma'am. No, stop it. This is a really inappropriate time for you to be feeling like that. You are too horny. Go rub one out and shut the fuck up. She thinks about how those are fatal wounds and she's avoided those at all costs. Why? Why aren't you trying to kill people when other people are trying to kill you? Oh, that's right, because she's so good and everybody else is so bad. He says, you can't poison every enemy you come across. You're not going to have time to offer tea to some bravey Griffin rider when they come at you. I want you to remember that he called them Griffin riders right here. Because later on, when it is definitely revealed that he is two-timing this army, he makes it a explicit point to say that the Griffins are called flyers, not riders. Like, he stops in the middle of a very important conversation to say that, which was a ridiculous line. fine. I'll get there. And this would have been a good time for him to slip up and say that, rather than having these like really weird conversations where it's like, what does he mean by that? Like she did, you know, like 2 chapters ago. It would have made more sense if we had had him slip and give certain information rather than like hinting in certain conversations that he's doing bad things. But no good writing here. And she's like, how did you know that she was poisoning everybody? Because literally everybody got poisoned. Every week, every time they had to fight specifically you. What would have made sense is if you had poisoned a bunch of people so that a bunch of people couldn't do their matches. But instead, you very specifically only poisoned the people who were going to fight you. So duh. This is, apparently Xaden is the only person with brain cells in this entire college. Oh, Violence, you're good, but I've known better poison masters. The trick is not to make it quite so obvious. Well, at least we agree that it was obvious, but if it's so obvious, why is a 3rd-year writing student the only person who figured it out in a war college? And she's like, you're not gonna disarm me? No, defenseless women have never been my type. We're done for the day. And he turns to Dane and says, she could use a little less protection and a little more instruction. This is here to remind you, the reader, that Xaden is the one who gives her agency and Dane is the one who doesn't. And she's talking to Dane after the fact, and it says, I hardly think he'd command respect by snapping my neck on the mat, but Jack's been doing that successfully, and Xaden already has a reputation where he is respected, so like, why the fuck not? Do you think he could be plotting against Navarre and still have bonded Sigale? Did you forget that his dragon's name was basically Scale? I'm here to remind ya. And Dane says, I did it first. Then I realized that dragons would do anything to protect the Vale and their sacred hatchling grounds. There's no way any dragon would have bonded Ryerson or anyone they think wasn't honest about protecting Navarre. Why doesn't Violet know this? Like, why doesn't everybody know? Also, why wouldn't they be instructed on this? And also, like, what is the link between the dragons and the religion, if any? Anywho. And she asks about his dragon. Is he always in your head? I know it's off the rules to ask. Almost everything about bonds are off limits for discussion, given how secretive dragons are. Why are dragons allowed to be secretive? And if they feel like they need to be secretive, again, I'm just gonna keep asking, why aren't they enslaving the humans? He tells her that he talked to a scribe once again, and that he wants her to go to the scribe quadrant. He said that the scribe quadrant said that they'll still take her, and she's like, you just don't think I can cut it? He says, I never said that. They talk about Xaden, saying Violet's like, he has the right to do whatever he wants, including execute me. Yeah, that'll surely build wing loyalty. And he asks, do you know what happens at threshing? And she says, are you calling me ignorant? Yeah. You just said you don't know hardly anything about dragon bonds, and that's what happens at threshing. While the first years are taking out their vendettas and eliminating any liabilities to the wing, the 2nd and 3rd years, like him, have to watch, and they can't intervene at all. I'll have to watch, Violet. We are not allowed to help you, to save you. You wanna guess who will? I just can't lose you, Violet. I just can't. So he tells her to think about going to the scribe quadrant, and they'll just hide her from her mom. She says she'll think about it. She's not gonna think about it. Chapter 10, they finally go to the gauntlet, and I want to remind you that they've been there at the War College for weeks, doing battle briefing and hand-to-hand combat regularly, as well as history classes, but not learning how to physically survive in like war scenarios out in terrain that they might not be familiar with, which they might have to fly to. Sure, makes sense. They're going to the gauntlet, they're arguing, and Tynan, one person in their squad, is arguing, saying, our times aren't just ranked individually, Rydok, we're scored as a squad too, which is how the order for presentation is decided. Do you really think any dragon wants to bond a cadet who walks in after every squad, like in the squad in the professional? So the processional is when they are walking in as squads to go see the dragons at presentation, capital P. It doesn't really make sense that they would be like worried about this unless it's well known that either the dragons don't choose people or they, you know, kill everybody off who comes in last in the timed gauntlet thing, if they think that they're going to be liable for something. Like, liable for what? And Sawyer, who was a recycled cadet, says, take it from somebody who made it through presentation last year, your time doesn't mean anything. The last cadet to walk in last year bought in just fine, and some of the cadets in the first squad on the field were passed over. So also, why don't they already know this? Like, why are they just making up their own lore about what happens at presentation? Anyway.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Like, why are they even worried about this? Because at the bottom of this page, it says, you're the only squad to remain intact since parapet. That's incredible. Your squad leader must be very proud. Like, why aren't they themselves proud? They're still intact. Violet's still there. So, like, why are they so worried about not coming in first for presentation? I don't know. And then she starts to think about how Dane should make a move, which, is this the time? Is this pertinent? Especially when she's thinking about this, she's being accused of sleeping with Dane, and she's like getting told that she's probably getting preferential treatment by somebody named Luca. And Rhiannon's like, for fuck's sake, Luca, Tynan, shut up. They are not sleeping together. They've been friends since they were kids. Or do you not know enough about your own leadership to know his dad is her mom's aide? How do they know so little about their own leadership? That is a good question, Rhiannon. Thank you for bringing that up. Rydog says, you're lucky that Atos isn't here to like hear this guy talking shit about him possibly sleeping with Violet. And Violet thinks to herself, true, Dane would more than take exception to Tynan's assumptions and probably assign him cleanup duty for a month. But then it says, in italics, Xaden would just beat the shit out of him. Girl, why are you comparing them? What is wrong with you? I blink, shoving that comparison and any other thought of Xaden Ryerson far out of my head. Yeah, why are you comparing them? Professor Emeterio walks up, starts talking about the gauntlet. You still have 9 practice sessions before we rank you for presentation in 2.5 weeks. And so at this point you're thinking, why have they been training for this if it's so important, and also has real world like necessity as, you know, part of a fucking army?
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
And you can see the thought process of the author where she like realizes that and has Rhiannon step in to ask that question for her and the audience, right? It says, wouldn't it make more sense to let first years start practicing this thing right after parapet? You know, to give us a little more time so we don't die? Fair question. The answer is no, Professor Emeterio says. The timing is part of the challenge. Any words of wisdom, Sawyer? Wait, but Sawyer's already done this. So why would you bring him into this and then not bring that up? Sawyer is recycled. He has already done this. Hello? Further, I have more questions. My first question, girl, what? Next question, you don't say the same about hand-to-hand combat, and I want to know why. Like, why is it a time challenge? Like, what, that means you can't, wouldn't it? Okay, so it's a time challenge. It doesn't make sense that you don't start it way earlier. Like, the more you train, the faster you get. Hello? And also, how is this good prep? What does this have to do with riding dragons? Anyway, I'm also confused because it seems like this setup is like mechanical almost.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
So at this point in the book, I'm thinking if we have a mechanical setup for making this like moving American Ninja Warrior obstacle course essentially, why don't we have similar technology that we've talked about yet we're 120 pages in and we're months into dragon riding school? Why have we not brought up whether or not they have like a mechanical dragon that they start learning how to ride? Wouldn't it be best practice to help them learn how to ride a dragon? Why don't we have like the first class of Violet learning how to ride a mechanical dragon so that she's prepared to ride an actual dragon? And it even says here, each of the 5 ascents in this course is designed to mimic the challenges you'll face in battle. Why would they not want to put you on that course way sooner? They ask, is there an alternative route? No. And Sawyer, the one who's done it before, gets to go first. And it says, Sawyer is off like a shot. Again, I get to bring this up. Off like a shot? Are there guns in this world? Sawyer does it perfectly. And Professor Emeterio calls out, perfect technique! That's exactly what you all should be doing! Yeah, because Sawyer practiced. Okay. Alright, right before she goes to do this, she once again brings up Xenal. It's been, several pages since we last prayed. We don't still have any information about the religion, other than a few gods and what they're the gods of. That's it. And instead of giving us information about the religion, which I guess probably just doesn't exist at this point, she gives us information about the dragons, which we could have learned again in a class. We don't. It says, feather-tailed dragons are the breeds we know the least about. So nothing. Because you don't know anything about the dragons. And I also want to point out that Feathertail is one of many names for dragons, which I want to remind you are Feathertail, Swordtail, Daggertail, Clubtail, Scorpiontail.
Dragon tails, dragon tails.
Perfect. She's giving her information giving herself information in order to stay calm. It says, we don't know much about feathertails. This is because feathertails reportedly abhor violence and are not suitable for bonding. Why are they allowed to live by the other dragons then? If they abhor violence and the other dragons don't abhor violence, then why are they allowed to live? Why are they not suitable for bonding if they abhor violence? To whom does violence need to be enacted upon? What constitutes violence? Again, why are the dragons not enslaving the humans? Though this scholar cannot be certain, as one has never left the Vale within my lifetime, then how do you know this? I don't understand. Green dragons, known for their keen intellect, descend from the honorable, I don't know what this word is, I'm sorry, and continue to be the most rational of dragon kind, making them the perfect siege weapons, especially in the case of clubtails. Why? No idea. Orange dragons, coming in various shades of apricot to carrot, are the most unpredictable of dragon kind and therefore always at risk. Why? Also, is it like the more orange they are, the more unpredictable? And it keeps saying that certain dragons are descended from certain lines, and all of the names are, is that Gaelic? I can't remember what the term is. So why is it that the dragons are descended from this, and it's important that the dragons state that they're from this line, but then the humans have named, well, bless you, the humans have named, my cat just let out the cutest sneeze, I'm so sorry. Humans have named them things like dagger tail, scorpion tail. She's running across the gauntlet while she's doing this shit. It's really difficult. And Orally, who, have I even brought her up? She's completely irrelevant, so probably not. Orally and her are like cheering each other on. And then Orally is red shirt death number 2. Was there more dialogue than Dylan? Sure. But she's still irrelevant, so I don't care. There's a page break. It says, Orally Donnans. A single tear escapes my cheek. Escapes and I bat it away, ripping one of the scabs along my cheek. You bat it and it rips, I don't know. This is needless death. It rings so hollow because it's needless in death. Time and training would have prevented this. There's no concern about like wasting resources on expendable people. Why would you set up your own army to fail? Like the easiest answer would have been, if it really was designed to mimic things that they would see in battle, then why would they not have them do this earlier and then not have this needless loss of life? It doesn't make sense. So she is burning Orly's stuff, and it says, the flames catch and whoosh as it becomes more fuel for the fire. Just another tribute to Malik, the god of death. What if they don't burn all of somebody's stuff? Because she didn't burn her brother's book, Brennan, the Book of Brennan. So what if they don't? Like, what does Malik do? And why are they so like wish-washy on when they follow that rule and when they don't? They're talking about, her and Dane are talking about the gauntlet, and she says, I'll figure something out before the official timed gauntlet on presentation day. I have to. They don't allow cadets to climb back down on the filed day. You either complete the gauntlet or you fall to your death. What if you just stand there and don't finish? What happens then? Do you get recycled or do they kill you? I don't fucking know. She's walking. There's a tunnel. There's people out past curfew. And it says, I let the darkness conceal me as Zayden, Garrick, and Bodhi, Zayden's cousin, passed me under a mage light, headed in my direction. What the fuck is a mage light? Who are mages in this? There has to be something more we can do, Bodhi says. We're doing everything we can, Garrick hisses. My scalp prickles. Second time. And she realized that Zayden knows that she's there. If he wants to kill me, then fine. I'm over waiting for it to happen. Oh yeah, this is the part of the book where I wrote cringe in big blue letters. Go on, I'll meet you inside, Zayden says. You sure? Bodhi's forehead puckers. It puckers, and she is like upset about Orally, who we knew for 3.7 seconds, and she's like, I don't care to ask you questions about where you've been. It's not like I'm not out after curfew myself. And he's like, what are you doing out here first year? Debating running away. How about you? Feel like sharing? The same. Sarcastic ass. Okay, great. She's like, look, are you gonna kill me or not? The anticipation is starting to annoy the fuck out of me. Haven't decided yet, he answers. Well, could you? It would really help me decide my plans for the week. Am I affecting your schedule, Violence? I just need to know my chances are here. Cringe! That's the oddest way I've ever been hit on. Not my chances with you, you conceited prick. And he's like, don't make me keep asking what you're talking about, essentially. And he's like, she says, at living through all of this, I can't make it up the damn gauntlet. And he's like, killing you won't be any trouble, Violence. It's leaving you alive that seems to be causing the majority of my trouble. Blah, blah, blah. Pretending they have problems when they have no problems. He's like, if you want to run off to the scribe quadrant, she says, I gasp. Oh my god, he knows things. He always knows things when everybody else is completely oblivious. It's so weird. How would you know anything about that? I know everything that goes on here. Shadows, remember? They hear everything, see everything, conceal everything. I hate that he's ruining shadow magic for me. You want to know why you're still alive? Because you're the scale I currently judge myself against every night. Every day I let you live, I get to convince myself that there's still a part of me that's a decent person. So if you want to quit, then please spare me the temptation and fucking quit. But if you want to do something, then do it. This is the most I've liked him, is that little paragraph right there. And he tells her, well, if you're too short to figure out the gauntlet, then fucking figure it out. Which, honestly, can he really trust her plans, considering that, you know, her last plan was to just like poison everybody and be completely obvious about it? Anywhoosie, chapter 11 is a grave offense against Malik to keep the belongings of a dead loved one. They belong in the beyond with the god of death and the departed. In the absence of a proper temple, any fire will do. He who does not burn for Malik will be burned by Malik. She's literally carrying around her dead brother's book, and her friend also says that she keeps stuff when people die. So anyway, Major Rorley's Guide to Appeasing the Gods, 2nd edition. Wait, so the religion is intertwined with the military then? What crossover, if any, is there between the gods and the dragons? And also, I just want to remind you again that on page 76, she said that she did not burn Brennan's stuff. So apparently she will be burned by Malik. Oh no! By the 9th and next to last session, she says she's ready to set the entire obstacle course on fire. Which, with the willy-nilly rules of this entire college, I'm like, they'd probably just be like, wow, amazing, genius, stroke of genius. And it says you can't touch any other cadet on the route. Just throwing rules willy-nilly around again. And she's like, if I have to run to the scribe quadrant, it's gonna have to be tonight. Although it's the logical choice, the safe choice, although there's no guarantee my mother won't find out. Finally, some logic thrown in there. Correct, you're right, the general of the war college is probably likely to figure out that you did go to the faction she told you not to. Also, I don't understand how she can be in charge of her own daughter going to a certain faction, but not in charge if her daughter gets revenge murdered. Imogen, pink-haired girl who hangs out with Xaden a lot, says, good luck today. Hopefully you won't fall ... short. By the way, I'm going to spoil it for you now. Imogen's mean to her because Imogen's into her. It's really stupid. Randomly, we're talking about how Dane is hot. He's hot. He has that whole boy next door who can still kick your ass. This is all hyphenated. Vibe going for him. I fight a smile because she's right. He so does. This is just here to remind you that there is a love V. In case you forgot, Dane is supposed to still be in the running for love interest. He's not. There's only 171 left of them from like the 300 who originally to the war college, and it says 171 for 100 dragons, but what will we? And Luca's like, stop letting the fear leach into your voice. If the dragons think you're a coward, you'll be nothing but a name tomorrow. Again, why aren't the dragons in charge? And then they have this like really awkward convo between her and Rhiannon where it says, nervous Rhi? For you? Not at all, we've got this. Oh, I'm at the history test tomorrow, I tease. There's nothing going on today to panic about. Now that you mention it, the whole Treaty of Arif might just be the death of me. Ah, the agreement between Navarre and Krovla for mutually shared airspace for both dragons and griffins over a narrow strip of the Esben Mountains between Somerton and Drathis, I recall nodding. Your memory is terrifying. No, her memory is there to serve as info dumping for the reader. This is a joke to remind us that Violet knows stuff. It's not exposition. It's to remind us very explicitly that Violet is smart. They're walking in their sections, which by the way are named Flame, Claw, and Tail. There's 3 sections and 3 squads, but 4 wings. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. There's a bottleneck at the gate, but we're through watching into the mage lit. What does that mean? Dimness of the tunnel that we take every morning to reach the gauntlet. Shadows blanket the edges of the rocky floor along our path. What are the limits of Xaden's power anyway? Why are you... What? Why is he getting brought up? Could he use shadows to choke out every squad in here? Would he need to rest or recharge after? Does such a vast power come with any sort of checks or balances? Why do you have more questions about Xaden and his signet power than you do about dragons? Dane shows up to be overbearing. Change your mind, he demands. I can't. any more than you would leave Kath and go with the scribes yourself. That's different, he says. I'm a writer. And she's like, well, maybe I am too. He is not a love interest. He sucks. Let him go now. And she's like, it's inevitable that one of us will have to bury the other. I find that hard to believe when like a chapter ago, somebody was talking about the fact that they are a legacy family, that they're a writer, they're going to be a writer, their brother's a writer, their dad's a writer. Anywho, I don't know if I can watch, Dane says. Then close your eyes. What changed between Parapet and now, Dane asks. Me, says Violet. Cool. She once again sends up a prayer to Zenal that this is going to work. And she does some stuff basically to cheat, but she wins, right? And the thing is, like, if she were in a situation which it's supposed to mimic like real life situations, she would use whatever she needed to use in order to get the job done. So I don't really think this entire thing about like, oh my god, it might be cheating is even worth talking about. Someone says, can she do that? I'm doing it now. Also, it says she is climbing up the chimney like fucking Santa Claus. The fact that somebody asked, can she do that? There's willy-nilly rules all over this college. Of course she can. Y'all just make shit up as you go. One of the obstacles, it says, is meant to test a cadet's ability to scale a dragon's foreleg and reach its saddle, and I'm too short. I have nothing but questions. Why wouldn't your bonded dragon work with you? Are dragons this ruthless to their own kind? Is that some sort of like ritualistic thing? Do they not want to be touched elsewhere? Can't you just climb up its tail? Can't you climb up its snout? I don't know. And then somebody gets really mad, and it's Amber Mavis, who has not been on page before this, but she's here now, temporarily. And she's actually friends with Dane, okay? She yells that Violet's cheating. And I just think it's funny how, like, killing people for no reason, based on, like, personal subjective matters and vendettas is fine. But it says that Amber and Amber Mavis and Dane are friendly friends. The cheater clearly used foreign materials, not once, but twice. It's not to be tolerated. We live by the rules or die by them. Do you? Because I feel like the rules have been getting broken and just like, you know, willy-nilly. Yeah. No wonder she and Dane are so close. They're both in love with the Codex. And Amber says that she should be disqualified because of Violet using her knives in the gauntlet. Can't tolerate lawlessness within your own wing, Ryerson. Wouldn't lawlessness sort of be his bread and butter? Anyway, and like if he does let this go, that Violet did this, wouldn't that be like super suspicious? Anyway, none of this makes sense. Everything's made up. The points don't matter. Violet starts quoting the Codex. A rider may only bring to the quadrant items that they can carry. Are you quoting the Codex to me? Amber shouts. And they shall not be separated from those items no matter what they may be. For once carried across the parapet, they are considered a part of their person. Article 3, Section 6, Addendum B. And Amber says that addendum was written to make thievery an executional offense. So thievery is an executional offense, but literally murdering each other is not. You can murder, but I draw the line at stealing. And Violet's like, yeah. But in doing so, it gave any item carried across the parapet the status of being part of the rider. So what if you bring a dildo with you? Is that part of you? But also, in however long since that addendum has been written, this has never been used as in any other capacity? I don't know. I don't get it. His eyes flare, talking about Xaden, and I don't miss the hint of a smirk on that infuriatingly decadent mouth of his. I need you to stop using the words ridiculously and infuriatingly when it comes to him. It should be against the Codex to look that good and be so ruthless. Ma'am, now is not the time. And Xaden's like, well, she has you, Amber. And he's like, by the way, Violet, you are bleeding. Do something about it. Oh my god, not him caring. Oh god. Chapter 12. Presentation day is unlike any other. The air is ripe with body odor. Just kidding. Ripe with possibilities and possibly the stench of sulfur from a dragon who has been offended. Never look a red in the eye. Never back down from a green. If you show trepidation to a brown, well, just don't. Or what? They'll eat you? Again, why don't they just enslave the humans? Don't the dragons need them? I don't get it. There were 171 of them. There are now 169. The fastest up the gauntlet was Liam Myrie. And this is the second time in the first third of this book that Liam has been mentioned. You're supposed to care about him, but he doesn't turn up much. They're going to presentation to present themselves to dragons. And somebody says, oh, there's a feathertail. And Tynan says, who the hell would ever want to bond a feathertail? Bruh, you would be lucky if a dragon wants to bond with you at all. Isn't that correct? Like, don't a bunch of you get recycled? Anywho, one of the wing leaders says you guys should talk to your nearby squad mates when you're on the path. It will help dragons get a sense of who you are and how well you play with others. There's a correlation between bonded cadets and a level of chatter. How did we get this information? And also, why do they care how well you play with others? I thought that it said recently that dragons value violence. Makes no sense. Feel free to look at the dragons, especially if they're showing off their tails, but I would abstain from eye contact if you value your life. So it's the violence thing that they... Okay, I don't get it. Tynan says, I can't even see their tails. How am I supposed to know what breed they are? We're not supposed to know what breed they are. Fuck that. I need to figure out which one I'm going to approach during threshing. And Violet says, pretty sure this little walk is so that they can decide. How are there even people allowed to become this level of arrogant when it comes to the dragons, when in fact they have literally seen people get scorched for no reason? So Rhiannon is talking about how she has a sister who is having a baby, and she said, I'm hoping she'll have a girl. I guess I'll find out once we finish the year and can write our families. And Violet says, that's a bullshit rule. And Rhiannon says, you don't think it encourages loyalty to the wing? And Violet says, I think I'm just as loyal to my sister whether I've had a letter from her or not. There are bonds that can't be broken. That is not an answer to the question. The question wasn't, are you going to stay loyal to your sister? It's, do you think it encourages loyalty to the wing? Which loyalty to the wing is moot because you guys can kill each other over subjective ideas of liability. Just gonna keep saying it. No loyalty to the wing is encouraged as far as I can tell. They're walking past dragons, and standing at the end of the line is a small golden dragon. And Tynan says, who the hell would bond that thing? And she says, they can hear you. And Luca says, it's fucking yellow. So not only is it obviously too small to carry a rider in battle, but it's not even powerful enough to be a real color. Somebody says, maybe it's a baby. And Rhiannon says, it's full grown. There's no way the other dragons allow a baby to bond. No human alive has ever seen a baby. So the dragons don't value violence. They value each other. Then why is the feathertail there? I don't get it. And it says, Tynan says, it's a mistake, all right. You should totally bond it, Sorengale. You're both freakishly weak. It's a match made in heaven. I don't understand how there's no reverence for dragons in this society. Also, again, how is this loyalty to the wing? Like, you might as well just be mailing your family members left and right because clearly there's no loyalty here. And Sawyer says, don't ever say that about a squad mate, especially not in front of unbonded dragons. So like unbonded dragons are more violent? Is that it? I don't get it. They talk about how stressful it is. And Violet says, it could be worse. We could be walking past a line of wyvern, right? We have not brought up wyvern in 140 pages. Just as a reminder. Let me guess. Wyvern are some elite squad of griffin riders created because of something we did at a battle only you can manage to remember with your scribe brain, says Luca. You don't know what a wyvern is? Rhiannon asked. Didn't your parents tell you bedtime stories, Luca? This is weird because it's just here to be just like the conversation with the sister in the beginning, to give you information. The same information you were given, it's just there to remind you of the same information you were given at the beginning. There are stories about wyvern. These are children's bedtime stories. They are definitely not real. A definitely not real thing from children's bedtime stories meant to scare children. Totally not real thing. Stop it. Stop that. They're folklore. Kind of like dragons, but bigger with 2 feet instead of 4. A mane of razor sharp feathers streaking down their necks. Wouldn't those just be knives? And a taste for humans. Unlike dragons who think we're a little gamey. But Xaden said that they think of you as prey. I don't get it. This is coming after the book has been so heavy-handed with this information. It's basically like screaming at you like, hey, this means something that you're gonna have to remember later. And she talks about how she learned this from her dad. Rhiannon says, did he tell you people supposedly only turn into venom if they channel directly from the source? Luca says, that sounds like some border village nonsense. A venom, wyvern. Anyone with a modicum of education knows that our words stop all magic that isn't directly channeled from dragons. No, because explain the mage lights. Are there mages or not? Further, didn't you just say that she is basically a scribe, so doesn't she have a modicum of education? Then out of nowhere, Pryor gets roasted because he was indecisive. Remember Pryor? Me neither.
Is something burning?
My spinach pus!
Then she gets approached by 2 green dragons. She bumps into them or some shit. And they go up to her and they're like sniffing. And it says one of them sets its nose right at her breasts. Dirty. But greens are the most reasonable. How they know that? I don't know. And then she realizes, oh, they're sniffing my corset, which is made from the scales of her sister's dragon, who's also a green, I think. I'm Mira's sister, Violet. She collected Tana's scales after he'd shed them last year and had them shrunk down so she could sew them into the vest to help keep me safe. Says Professor Kaori taught us every way to approach a dragon and 0 ways to disengage one. Wow, that sounds like a misstep. Yep. And then she explains to Rhiannon, oh, I have a dragon scale armor under my vest. I spell my sister's dragon. Please don't tell anyone. But like, why not? Because like you just said in the last chapter that you brought it with you, therefore it's part of your person now. Like if you had brought a dildo, how that would be part of your person. Anywho, Luca, the girl who was arguing with her about wyvern and venom, randomly got killed by dragons. Just roasted. Since there's no revering of dragons, clearly because Tynan and Lucan were just like making fun of the Feathertail, wouldn't like if their families found out that they got murdered, wouldn't their families like if their families didn't teach them to revere dragons, wouldn't the dragons be in danger of being revenge killed by the families of or by the people who and Luca literally got killed just for being insufferable to another first year. Like wouldn't her family want to take revenge? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Chapter 13. October 1st is always threshing. Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, doesn't matter where it falls on any given year. On the 1st of October, the first year cadets of the Riders Quadrant enter the bowl-shaped forested valley to the southwest of the Citadel and pray they come out alive. And Rhiannon is like, which dragon are you going for? And Violet's like, I don't fucking know. Gee, I wonder which dragon she ends up with. Rhiannon says to her, you memorized the cards, right? So you know what's out there? What cards? That would have been helpful information to talk about in the book. If you go in groups, you're more likely to be incinerated than bonded. The scribes have run the statistic. Okay, but could we see those? And what variables were they accounting for? Like, I am desperate to know any information that would make this make sense to me. So a bunch of people are, they start running around and she says, so much for squad loyalty. It's everyone for themselves today. Bro, what squad loyalty? Literally when? She says, we're each heading out in our own direction like we've been flung apart by centrifugal motion. What if I'm one of the cadets who's destined to never become a writer? One who's thrown back time and time again to restart first year until eventually something puts me on the death roll. Has this all been for nothing? Yes. So she's running around, doing her thing. And she passes some and she's like, I don't feel connected with those, so I'm gonna pass. And she hears voices. My stomach twists. It's Jack. No one else's voice has that physical effect on me, not even Zayden's. So not a scalp prickle, must be nausea or some shit. You sure we shouldn't be spending our time looking for our own dragons instead of hunting the freak down? And it's Oren, that dude she poisoned that one time, who somehow never figured out that he was poisoned after watching a bunch of people also get poisoned after him, week after week. Makes no sense. It's not like our dragons are going to bond other riders, Jack says. They'll wait for us. This has to be done. The scrawny one is going to get someone killed. We have to take it out. If the dragons are as ruthless as I've been told a million times that they are, wouldn't the dragons take it out themselves? Jack has no brain cells. Not because it makes sense for him to be stupid, but because the author needed a stupid villain and wrote one, because it's easier to have a stupid villain. It's unrideable. It's a certified freak. And Feathertails are useless in combat. They refuse to fight. Then why would the other dragons allow them to even go to the... I don't get it. No one knows anything about Feathertails, so I don't know where Jack is getting his information, but I don't have time to focus on his assumptions right now. Where did Jack get that information? Shouldn't you all have the same level of understanding of dragons? Doesn't make any sense. She stumbles across the golden dragon. She's like, you gotta get the fuck out of here. Get it the fuck out. Jack finds them, steps into the clearing with Oren and Tynan, the guy who keeps arguing with her. She hides and he says to the dragon, we'll make it painless. And she's like, no, you can't do this. And Jack's like, ha, we can take out the weak links at the same time. You can't, I say to Oren. It goes against everything we believe in. What do you believe in? He flinches. Jack doesn't. Letting something so weak, so incapable of fighting, live is against our beliefs. I'm honestly unsure who's right, because the beliefs of this society are not established by the author at any point. I have no idea what either of them are talking about. What beliefs? And they all lift their swords, so not guns, so the off like a shot thing is moot. I would strongly recommend you rethink your actions. as a voice, his voice, demands from across the field to my right. My scalp prickles. Can you guess who it is? Because the scalp's prickling again. It's the third time it's been brought up. Xaden is leaning against the tree, his arms folded across his chest. This is the third time we've been told he folds his arms across his chest. We get it. At this point, I just assume. Watching with narrow golden eyes, her fangs exposed, is Sigale, his terrifying navy blue dragon. Sigale, not Scale. But if you recall, he's not supposed to be there because they're not supposed to intervene. We get an excerpt from Navarian Unedited History, which is an alternate name for this book actually, because it's not edited well. He might hate me, but he's a wing leader. Stop pretending. She asks, "You're really gonna do this, Tynan? You're gonna attack a squad mate?" And he's like, "Squads don't mean shit today." Have they ever? I'm not convinced. She looks down at the golden dragon, spares a glance down at its claws, and says, or should I say paws. "Oh fucking hell, you don't have any claws? Wait, there's hell in this world?" Jack roars a battle cry and sprints towards me, and she throws the dagger. She hits him, but she doesn't kill him. Oren and Tynan charge at the same time. Jack yells at them, "Kill her!" Xaden is shouting, like, telling her, like, "Behind you!" And Tynan's like, "You can't interfere!" And he says, "No, but I can narrate." So basically, Xaden is treating this like a soccer match. He's obviously on my side here, which confuses the hell out of me, since more than anything, I'm certain he wants me dead. How are you still certain of that at this point? Doesn't make any sense to me. Suddenly, who should show up? The enormous black dragon that used to be, so it wasn't ridden by her brother. I said that wrong earlier. It was ridden by the guy who tried to save her brother. Naolini? I can't remember. That guy, the guy who tried to save her brother's life and her brother is allegedly dead, that guy's dragon shows up, okay? And it begs the question. It's so huge and it suddenly appears. And it's like, how the fuck did it get there without being seen? I don't understand. And apparently she's so small she doesn't even come up to its ankle. Once again, we're reminded of how tiny Violet Sorengale is. "Step aside, Silver One." It speaks to her directly. And it incinerates everything in its path, including Tynan. And it tells her that she should just kill her enemies. She's like, I can't kill an unconscious man. And he's like, "He would kill you if given the same chance." Well, okay. Well, that's a statement on his character, not mine. The dragon says, "You're bleeding. Stop it." It's not that simple when you've been run through with and it's like, a dragon should know that you can't just stop. And he's like, "Let's go, Violet Sorengale. Get on my back." And she's like, "Oh shit, he's choosing me." "Get on your back?" I repeat, like a fucking parrot. There's parrots in this world? So he's like, "Get on my back." And she's having trouble. He's like, "You're a rider, aren't you?" And she says, "That seems to be up for debate at the moment." So she's trying to like settle herself into a seat properly, bending her knees like Professor Kaori taught us. When? When were you taught how to fly a dragon? Because I've been waiting and I don't recall that at all. That never happened. We never had a class on that. We had like one battle brief and then the gauntlet and a bunch of fuck shit. I don't remember. It definitely wasn't classes. Everything about him is bigger than any model we practice on. When? And why would they not have multiple sizes of models if there's multiple sizes of dragons? This is a dragon riding school. And he says, "My name is Tirnanak, son of Nope and Nope, descended from the cunning Nope line. But I'm going to assume that you'll be able to remember that once we reach the field, so not going to remember that. Sure isn't. So Tarn will do until I inevitably have to remind you." So they go up in the air. Her hands slip. She says, "Oh fuck." She slides down his back, approaching the sharp scales of his morning star tail. What the fuck is a morning star tail? Beats the fuck out of me. He banks left. She gets no handhold, and she's in free fall. And that's where we're gonna leave off. This was basically hours and hours of me asking pertinent questions that went unanswered and will continue to be unanswered. Hello, welcome to the end of the video wrap up. So unfortunately, the first third of this book was a swing and a miss. What? A swing and a miss. When you're writing a fantasy story, channel your inner 3-year-old, okay? And ask yourself, but why about everything? Why should you do this? So that readers like me don't have to do it for you later and then hate your book. That's my advice to authors. Make sure you you have answers for all of your but whys. Unless you're intending specifically to write for people who don't care if it makes sense or not, and some people are like that and that's fine. I'm being genuine, no shade. But you could reach both audiences, a wider audience, if it does make sense. For that reason, I think it's worth taking the time to cultivate a story where all the basic questions of your setup are answered. It's very clear to me that this was a book written by an author and editing team that was not interested in taking the time to cultivate a story that had all its I's dotted and T's crossed. I'll just give one example of a question that went unanswered because obviously I spent the last 2 hours saying none of this makes sense and I have so many questions. Basic questions should have been answered, such as something like, why is it that Violet is unwilling to kill to save her own life despite being brought up in a culture that knows that when you go to this dragon rider school, that is what happened? Why isn't she at least willing to kill to save her own life when others are willing to do that and more for ambition purposes? Why does she value life in a way that the culture at large does not? Is this something her dad instilled in her? We don't know. Does she butt heads with her sister when her sister has differing views on this? We don't know. This is a very obvious issue that we needed to have a conversation about so that it could have been a theme throughout so we could have understood better. But instead we're busy comparing Xaden and Dane when we know who the answer is going to be. Speaking of which, the relationships in here fall incredibly flat for me. Oh man. So do the characters at large. Nobody stands out here to me. Really, they just feel like amalgamations of characters I've seen before, especially Xaden. Xaden very much just screams Fourth from Divergent for me so far, which was not enemies to lovers either. Why is this called enemies to lovers? It's clear we're making a love V in the typical fashion where we have a less desirable guy, the Tamlin as I call him, and the more desirable guy, which is the bad boy, the Rhysand, or the Xaden with an X in this particular version. I think this is a shorthand used to create conflict that writers should not employ. It feels very lazy and disingenuous to me. I also think that, again, calling this enemies to lovers is actually a lie, because at no point were they actually enemies. He's just snarky. And if like just being snarky and sniping at each other every once in a while is enemies to lovers, then my husband and I are enemies to lovers every morning when we're grouchy when we wake up. My husband is my enemy. We're told over and over that Violet is smart, but she ignores pretty obvious things, makes terrible plans like weekly poisoning somebody. How did she not get caught? Except she did, but only by Xaden. This really does not bode well for like the entire war if Xaden is the only person catching on to very obvious patterns. Things mostly just fall in her lap, like the scene where she catches Xaden talking to the other kids of the other, hated people under the tree, where she just happened to be there. She just happened to climb that tree and overhear that conversation. How incredibly opportune! This book is written more like a movie, and I'm way less critical on movies, so had this been a movie, I would have been a lot nicer to it, because in movies, narration is totally different. There's a time constraint. If this had been a movie, I probably would have liked it. But being in Violet's head, I have to hear way too much nonsense comparing Dane and Xaden for no reason. The world building doesn't get done because we're focusing in on the optics of particular scenes that the author had already planned out in her head that she wanted to see. This is very much the same as my complaints with Lightlark in that it's just aesthetics. A good book to me is not just aesthetics, it's not just movie-like scenes. I prefer books that do big emotional impacts, that do very unique exploration of theme, that make me think about things in a way that I had not seen them before, or seen something in a different light. In a world where I don't have a million questions about things, or like a list of things that don't make sense or they conflict with each other. And the problem is, I know it's a fantasy, I know, but the thing is, it's a fantasy, which means that when I'm reading fantasy, I'm trying to portal myself outwards, right? I'm trying to experience something that is so outside of my lived experience, right? And I don't want that illusion to be shattered. I shouldn't be thinking about the author at all. This should seem real to me, and that's the author's job to try to create that. But the illusion gets shattered when the author takes shortcuts like not building out their world. When things start making no sense, it's kind of like when you're in a dream and you realize, oh, this isn't real. I'm dreaming right now. I'm asleep. That's what reading books like Lightlark and Fourth Fourth Wing are like for me. I'm not transported. I'm at home asking questions. That's it for part 1. Like and subscribe if you want to. You can join my channel membership or Patreon if you want to get early access to part 2. I don't know when that'll be up, probably in 4 weeks. I'm sorry. These take a long time to make. But early access is available through Patreon and channel membership, which are linked below. And check out glassesusa.com for all of your eyewear needs. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hello, it's me. It's Trash Can Rachel. I already did this, and then I realized that I didn't actually have my microphone on, so I'm redoing it. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun for us? Okay, anywho, so before I go, I have to say a few thank yous. First to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Allie Magpie, Amanda M, Ashley B, Bubble Tea, Cami, Chris, Chrissy, Claire, Des, Eric, Jack and Jill, John E, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Kelly K, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lex Lula, Molly, Alice, Peggy Lou, Witch Bitch, Rain, Samar, Scarlett, Shiny, SMK, and Zachary. Thank you all so much for being a friend. I appreciate y'all being patient while I took forever getting this video done. Okay, thank you all. Bye-bye. And last but not least, before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are AM Angel, Aiden, Alicia, Amanda B, Andy, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley H, Aubrey P, Ava, BB, Beck, Blythe, Bookish Barbie, Ray, Bree, Bryn, Caitlin, Carlin, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Colleen, Corwin, Corey, Darren, Deborah, Diet Goth, Dorothea, Ebby, Eden, Elise, Ember, Emily A, Emily L, Grace, Gracie, Hannah C, Hannah T, Harpy Kuro, Hello There Darling, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jacko All Trades, Jay is on Olympus, JT, Jennifer T, Jenny G, Jillian, Jules, Kaylee, Kat, Katya, Kayala, Kendra, Kylie, Laughing Cat Dog, Lauren B, Library of Scars, Lisa B, Liz Cardigan, Lustful Octopus. I tried to say it without laughing, I couldn't do it. Martin, Marquita, Maz, Malara, Meow Meow, James, Nat, Natalie M, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nicole T, Nikki, Nyan Binary, Paige E, Paige P, Foxglove, Pixel Stars, Pierre Raytheon, Rachel B, Raquel, Rat Sarah, Reba, Rebecca, Ren, Robin, Rowan, Other Rowan, Socoria, Samantha, Sammy, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Scarlett, Shanae, Shannon, Shayna, Sheena K, Sean, Sierra, Stephanie, Talia, 3 Old Dogs, Toast, Trash Can Teddy, Tito Phoenix, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being a friend.